Welcome to another stream. Less than 24 hours since the deadline stream, we have another one here. We're reacting to the game so far and looking ahead to game week 6, and I'm not able to do it tomorrow straight after all of the games for the weekend are done. That's why I'm doing it now. I put a poll out. Thank you to everyone who voted and provided your feedback. Same with all the new channel members, Rock and Roll and Rodrigo Arias, and same with everyone who's tuning in right now and those who've been sending super chats in all of the last few live streams. Really appreciate it. I'll be going through all your questions. Thank you to everyone who is here. Of course, it's a very kind of weird time, I'd say, to kind of be streaming in FPL, of course, on a Saturday where maybe a lot of people will try to take a little break as well and just absorb all of the action. But here we are, and if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to put them in the live chat. Thank you so much to everyone who has decided to come here today. I'm going to load up the live chat now, and we'll be going through your questions. I'll also be going through how Game Week 5 is going so far, of course, looking ahead to Game Week 6, my initial plans, and I'll explain some decisions which I did do and, you know, some of the things I decided not to do in the end, and kind of just provide my kind of thought process and analysis. And of course, you can't get everything right. Thank you very much, Laser. Congrats on the Tony points. Yeah, I have to say, I just didn't expect it. And the reason why I held off from doing Benrahma to Rafinha was because going into game week 6, I actually wanted to make 2 free transfers and get rid of Ivan Toney and either upgrade my defence or one of my midfielders like Brownhill, for example. And now with Toney's performance, of course, it's very difficult to get rid of him, but it's still likely, of course. And we know what Toney can do. It's just a matter of how consistent can he do it. And of course, he is very cheap, but the fixtures coming up for Brentford are very, very difficult. I have Livramento first sub and Torres didn't play. Will Livramento get subbed on? Yes, he will, mate. That's a really good one. I never would have expected Southampton to keep a clean sheet, so fair play there. I can't believe I captained Sarr. Wow, Yogesh, that is really impressive. And of course, he's another one I consider to get in for Benrahma, and that maybe would have made more sense. With Rafinha, of course, he is a bit of a doubt now, and I think, you know, there were some images of, you know, some strapping on his leg already, so maybe the kind of rumours were true, and he did have a thigh injury, but then again, it's very difficult to kind of know what is true, what isn't. And end of the day, you know, I had a feeling he would start. He did. And of course, he scored yet again. So he definitely likes playing against Newcastle at St James's Park. The Flying Dutchman says, Sarr saved my game week. Yeah, and in a way, I'd say Ivan Toney for me was the kind of saviour and the difference maker. My team name is Sarr, Cream and Onion. What a name. We'll get Livramento off the bench. If all goes well, I might get into the top 1k overall after bonus points, etc. on 57 points with Ronaldo short and Greenwood still to play. That's a very good position to be in, and you're definitely going to be within the top 10k by the end of the week. So that's really impressive. Will Livramento get subbed on for Torres? Yeah, he will, Nicholas. Rafinha injury serious? I mean, obviously, we're going to know more closer to the next deadline, but I think he should be fine. What Bielsa was doing there was being smart and just taking him off and avoiding, you know, a potential major injury there. This game week has been so bad for me. To be fair, mate, it's gone badly for a lot of people, and I was looking at it and thinking, wow, this is really bad for me, especially after what happened in the Newcastle-Leeds game yesterday. But obviously, you can still have a very good day tomorrow, and we'll see what happens from there. Sarr and Salah captain saving this game week. Yes, Salah, once again, you know, this guy, he must be the best FPL asset of all time. He's so consistent and reliable and just a great captaincy option most weeks. He even outscored Mane, who obviously, once again, delivered against Palace. But yeah, Salah's just something else. Will Benrahma start? I think he will. Once again, it's kind of just my gut feeling, so don't base it off that. And either way, there's nothing we can do. And if that is the case, Benrahma will be coming on for me for Trent. And this is what I mean. So much has happened. Obviously, Torres not featuring, Trent not in the squad, Robertson not playing, and it was Tsimikas instead. Also Mahrez. And yeah, even from the Arsenal game, that's probably a bit uneventful, really. But people with Ben White, of course, including myself, very happy with him. He's going to get a bonus point, actually, I believe. And if you look at it from the actual game and the performance, I don't think he was that good. Gabriel was better. Benrahma is in training picks, so I think he will start. Exactly, Jay. I think so too. Damn, I have Digne, and he got me a -1. Yeah, I mean... Yeah, that is a bit bad. Obviously, I realise I am a bit far behind with the chat. I'll be trying to go through all of them, you know, some of the old comments as well. What a performance. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Nicholas. Hey, sitting at 5k, 32 points so far with 5 left to play and Ronaldo captain. Yeah, that's a really good rank. And yeah, obviously it's very tight at the moment in terms of the top and just pretty much all the ranks in general, but there's going to be kind of a gap being formed, and you've got some good players left. 5 left is actually a really good number. Is it just me, or is the week low scoring? No, it definitely isn't just you, mate. It is a low scoring week compared to most. That's why, despite only getting 51 points so far, I'm very happy with that. And I've got Benrahma potentially coming on, and yeah, also Shaw, Greenwood and Ronaldo left to play. So relying on United to do well against West Ham, and that will obviously be a big turning point because I'm in a pretty decent rank at the moment, but I could easily drop right down to 100k again. Do you think Christensen will start? Got 49 with 5 left to play. I think he will start. I'm not trying to be positive, by the way, for the sake of it, saying, I think Rafinha will be fine and all this. But I genuinely think that Christensen will start. I think he forms part of Chelsea's best defence. I have no bench of Antonio and Trent missing out. Yeah, this is the thing. That's why, in my opinion, it's very important to have a good bench if possible. Not too much, so that you have too many rotation headaches every single week. But I think it's important to have a little bit of depth at least. Of course, in your case, you're very unlucky. Trent misses out and Antonio suspended. These things are very, very unlikely to happen, but of course, that's why we have our bench. Hoping Ronaldo hauls big tomorrow, so do I. Not too big though, because some people will captain him, and of course, they will gain a big advantage over the rest. But of course, nail on thumbnail. Wait, what? Nail on thumbnail. Wait, I've got to think about that. Hopefully I haven't done it. Oh, yeah. Hopefully I haven't bugged out there. Sorry, I'm being a bit paranoid. Let's see. Hey, what are your thoughts on Son and Dyer? I think Son isn't going to feature this week, but then again, it is not that surprising. It wouldn't surprise me too much if Son started out of nowhere, but if you're asking me, I don't think he's going to start. As for Dyer, I haven't seen too much news about him. Shouldn't be too long term, both of those injuries, but I'm not too sure if either of them will start in this game week. I transferred Tony to Jimenez before the deadline. Look, I honestly, if I had the money, I would have done the exact same thing as you. So I wouldn't really kind of beat yourself up about that. Wolves were just really poor. And by the way, did you see Traore's shot which hit the crossbar? Jesus Christ. I mean, Wolves are the new Brighton. That's the way I'm seeing it. What happened to Trent? I think he's ill, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, someone please correct me if I got that wrong. Dylan, always happy to listen to you. Please subscribe and give him a like. Thank you, Weiheng. Always giving me the shout outs. Really appreciate it. And yeah, obviously you don't have to, but thank you very much. Trent is ill. Yeah, not COVID though. Green arrow from 41k to 19k. Get in. Ronaldo and Shaw left. Very good, Christopher. Hopefully you end the week very strongly. Of course, I have those players too, so I definitely want them to do well. And that's a very good rank rise. At least a drop. Having a shocking week so far, 32. Yeah, but I think even earlier, some people were saying they're in a really good position with 32 points. So obviously, there's not too much to kind of separate these different ranks. I wouldn't really beat yourself up about it. I have bloody 5 points, 5 to play, awful day. Damn, Jonathan. Okay, look. These things can happen to the best of us. I've had weeks like that myself with 20 points after everyone's played, really, including hits and stuff like that. But, you know, don't worry about it. Good weeks will come, and to be honest, this has been a freakish week. I mean, Wolves losing 2-0 at home to Brentford. You look at Villa smacking Everton 3-0. Maybe it's not too surprising considering how last season went too. But yeah, I mean, these things can happen, and these weeks are going to happen to all of us at some point, even if it's not this season. Could be in the years to come if we still play by then. But yeah. What should I do with Digne? Should I sell or hold? If change, any good option around that price? Look, I'll be completely honest with you, and I'd always suggest not being reactionary with players like this, but in my opinion, just from the beginning, I don't trust Everton's defence. And yeah, Everton have some very good fixtures coming up. It wouldn't make too much sense, I guess, to get rid of him now. But if you can, and you can start jumping on the Chelsea bandwagon, really, you can get in ahead of the curve, get 1 or 2 Chelsea defenders. I would rather get Rudiger with limited attacking potential, but who could keep a clean sheet most weeks, than having Digne. That's my honest opinion. So whether it's now or before, whatever, I would probably get rid of Digne at some point. And maybe even now, despite Norwich coming up for Everton, I just don't trust their defence. Got 4 nows, Ronaldo captain, Lukaku short, and Sanchez left. Yeah, Penguin, you're in a really good position, mate. And good luck with the rest of the season. That's a really good rank. Could Bailey be the next big thing in FPL this season? Says Cryptomaniac. He could be a decent option. I don't know about the next big thing, but of course, he's looked lively. And from Villa's attackers, who in my opinion haven't really gelled yet, or at least before today, he's been looking very, very impressive, of course. But yeah, I'd have to wait and see before saying he's the next big thing. Rafinha has a hip injury and not a thigh injury though. Yeah, that's a kind of separate injury, isn't it? The thigh injury that was reported Obviously, we're not even sure if the kind of strappings he had or the bandages or whatever were from that, of course. So that's something we need more clarification on from Marcelo Bielsa. 51 points for you. Has the bonus points been added? Yes, they have, because without the bonus points, I'm on 43, but with Salah getting, I think, 2 bonus points, as my captain gets 4, I think White gets a bonus point, Tony gets 3, so overall I get 8 bonus points and 51 overall. Rest in peace this week, yeah, it is that kind of week for a lot of people. Apologies for people who are putting in chats right now. I'm trying to get through the ones I've missed out from before. I'll get to you very soon. I had Ayling, Rafinha, DCL, Trent all injured, so I did wildcard. Rate my team if I send it. Yeah, sure thing. Send it in and I'll try rate it for you. Also, just in general, by the way, if you are interested, you can actually just send pictures of your teams. Try to do a cropped, clean image, and I may do a rate my team video ahead of game week 6. And it seems to be quite popular. People like it, so of course I want to try give the people what they want. So if you are interested, you can send in your teams. Try send a really good image that's clean and cropped, and I can rate them in the next video. But if you would rather me just kind of comment on it, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter, then I can do that too. Obviously, it's up to you. So glad I captained Salah. Rafinha also did great. Yeah, Rafinha was very impressive, of course. He did the business last season at St James's Park, and Salah is Salah, really. I have captained CR7. What do you think? I mean, I preferred Salah this week, but I think Ronaldo could easily do as well, if not better. Ronaldo is just Ronaldo, once again, just like Salah is. Hey, should I keep Benrahma in my team for the coming game weeks? If not, whom should I bring in to replace him? I have 0.2 million in the bank. I think if you've kept him so far, or this far, I'd probably just keep him for the next 2 game weeks against Leeds and Brentford. I think they're decent fixtures. Brentford, honestly, maybe isn't as appealing as it appears on paper, but I think Leeds defensively are very poor. Definitely captain Ronaldo next week. Yeah, Craig, let me actually show you guys how my team is looking like, and I showed this at the end of my stream yesterday. I sorted out my team. I haven't really changed much. I actually just I've put Tony in now into the starting lineup after his haul, but that's the only thing I've changed from yesterday. And yes, Ronaldo is my captain, the same as yesterday. I just have a good feeling about him at home to Villa. Of course, you might have some second doubts considering how good Villa were today, but then again, it is United, they're at home, and Ronaldo is just an absolute animal. Hi, I got 44, but Laporte and Matip didn't play. I only have Benrahma coming on. I have 4 bonus points to be added, and I have Mane captain, and I have Ronaldo, Christensen, Benrahma, Bissaka still to go. Yeah, that's not really a too bad position, to be honest. And a Mane captain, that's an ultra differential, and that looks pretty impressive. Of course, it's a bit of a bummer that Laporte and Matip didn't play, but these things can happen, and Matip is always kind of an injury or rotation concern, in my opinion. Who do you think is the best 6.5 million midfielders for the next few weeks? Obviously, based on what we've seen today, probably Sarr, but look, I still, medium to long term, I like Gallagher a lot, but I'd wait for the fixtures to turn for them. So for the next few game weeks in particular, I think Rafinha or Sarr. They were my picks from before as well, by the way. I'm not trying to be reactionary. That's not what I want to be doing. But they were actually 2 of the players I was considering to get in for Benrahma. But because I wanted to get rid of Tony heading into game week 6, and I wanted 2 free transfers, that's why I saved it, and I didn't get either of them. But I'd probably say them 2 based on the fixtures, and they're good players to have, maybe even medium to long term, but also if you're thinking of wildcarding in game week 7 or 8. Jota blank, Semedo and Traore failed once again. Williams conceded 3 and a yellow card. Trent didn't play. Bamford underperforming. Yeah, at least Bamford got the assist though. Trying to be positive there. As for Williams, this is the thing. He's a bench fodder option who's going to play. He might get you 1 or 2 points, but Norwich are that bad defensively. That's why I prefer spending that little bit extra on a Duffy, Livramento or Ben White. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. Norwich are definitely going down in my opinion unless they do a massive comeback. I just don't really see them staying up in the league, and their defence is awful. And Jota blank, don't even get me started on that miss he did. Oh my god, that was an absolutely, probably miss of the season, the worst miss of the season. It's definitely up there though. 42 points for Ronaldo, Lukaku, Shaw, Sanchez and Duffy replacing Torres. Is it a good score for now? Definitely. Even if I had 42 points right now, I'd definitely take it. That's not too bad, and you've got plenty of players coming in. Who to replace, Torres or keep? Considering the fact that they've got Chelsea and Liverpool coming up soon, maybe I'd consider getting rid of him. Maybe I'd still say Jota and Greenwood. They're still good options, but you can always go for Rafinha instead, and you have even more money to spend on the rest. And look, don't expect Rafinha to score every single game week, but I just think he's one of the more consistent 6.5 million options you can get. And I'm not convinced about Leeds totally. I still wouldn't be doubling up with him and Bamford, despite them combining for the goal yesterday. So like this is the thing. Obviously, this is a reaction stream. We are reacting to what's happening, but I'd still look medium to long term and not be too influenced by what's been happening recently, and try to keep your kind of logic and reasoning consistent. Scored 48 so far with 4 players still to play. Ronaldo, De Gea, Shaw and Bissouma. That's actually a substitute for Trent. Yeah, that's fine, to be honest. Bissouma's not ideal. And actually, did you see what he said? He said he believes he's the best midfielder in the Premier League. I mean, you've got to admire that confidence, but he's definitely wrong. Who I got bonus points from Saar today. Yeah, you definitely would, mate. He's getting free bonus points, and you can always check the official Fantasy Premier League Twitter, or if not, there's also livefpl.net that tells you every single game and who gets the bonus points. Rafinha or Jota? Medium to long term, I'd say Rafinha, but for the next few game weeks, I still prefer Jota. So long as Firmino's out, I still prefer Jota, and I think as long as he can get his shooting boots on, he's a better option for the next few. Torres, keep or sell? I mean, I still think he's a great option, honestly, but he's always going to be a rotation risk, even in some of these easier games on paper where you want him to be starting. I predicted 2-0, and I thought Torres would score if he started, but because of the Champions League, and this is something I talked about in my preview, if he started in the Champions League, I just wasn't so sure if he would at the weekend. Just too many games. I'd probably say sell, based on the kind of really difficult fixtures coming up, but he's still a really good option, you know. Salah's 2 bonus points must still be added, exactly. But in terms of the kind of game week score you see on screen, that's updated. So that's including bonus points. And of course, on screen, what you see in terms of the actual points, that hasn't been updated just yet. That Jota miss was shocking. Yeah, exactly, Barry. Jota replacement. Look, I'd still keep him for now against Brentford, but of course, when he plays City, you can get rid of him by then. Of course, Brentford isn't actually the easiest fixture, but it wouldn't surprise me now that if a lot of people get rid of Jota, he does the business. So I'd keep him for one more week if possible. If you're looking to get rid of him, there's Rafinha or Saar for the next few game weeks, and still Greenwood potentially, but of course, he's another one who could be in and out of the United team. Hey Dylan, 50 points with Ronaldo, Lukaku and Reece James to play. Saar, top scorer with 12. Salah, captain. Yeah, that's really impressive, mate. And, wait, let's see. I'm trying to think. Yeah, Salah... Did Saar get 12 points? Yeah. I think Saar's going to get even more points because he got free bonus. So he's going to be with 15 and Salah will get 12. Do I keep Jota? I'd say for this week, yes. And then probably get rid of him before the City game. How nailed is Havertz, do you think? I'm thinking of Jota to Havertz in Game Week 7 when Paul plays City. Yeah, look, I don't think he's completely nailed. He's going to be playing, I'd say, from Game Week 7 to 14, where Chelsea have that fantastic fixture run. I'd probably say he plays or starts in 4 or 5 of them, but he might be benched in 2 or 3. That's the way I see it, based on what we've seen so far this season. Loads of people had Torres, Pep shafted them. I kept away from City attackers and Wolves defenders. It worked out so much. Yeah, that's why, one week Marcel can look really good and then the next he concedes a penalty doing a stupid rugby tackle on Tony. These things can happen, and that's why never try to chase last week's points. My kind of thinking was to wait. Obviously, I'd explained this before. Get rid of Tony, who I saw as my weak link in my team. Maybe not so much now. And get Rafinha in next week, if not Saar. And I'm still not too convinced about getting Rafinha in ahead of West Ham. And also, I just don't expect him to really haul against the Hammers and replicate what he did against Newcastle. So that's why, obviously, it's really difficult to find the exact timing of your transfers. Sometimes, holding is the best thing to do. And sometimes, making the transfers is the right call. It's really a difficult kind of balance to make. But yeah, as for Torres, I have him in my Sky Fantasy team, and of course, not really ideal. I heard that Ben Rahman might not play tomorrow. Yeah, it is a possibility. I still think he will. It's a gut feeling I have, but don't be surprised if he doesn't. Eli Aslan says, hey mate, this is a bit of a long question, so you can skip if you want. My current team is Mendy, De Gea, Robertson, Maguire, Castagna, Matip, Creswell, Torres, Sanchez, Jota Fernal, Sterling, Kane, Antonio, and Bamford. I went through, and the best non-pick players are Bailey, Cash, Targets, and Maximan Sarr, Thiago Silva, Bernardo Silva, Maddison, Rashford, and Firmino. There's more, but those... Oh, that's for FPL Draft, is it? FPL Draft, I'll be honest, I have never played that. Obviously, I've got a bit of an idea of how it works, but I've never played it. I've been invited to. So yeah, I'm probably not the guy to ask that. Hopefully someone in the live chat can answer that. But yeah, I don't want to answer something that I just probably don't know the answer to. I've got 48 points with Duffy, Sanchez, Rudiger and CR7. Is that good? Also, I've got 1 free transfer. Should I take out either Traore or Torres? I'm assuming you have a green arrow. I think that's a good score, to be honest. And considering you have Ronaldo, Sanchez, Duffy and Rudiger, yeah, that's pretty decent. I think Rudiger and Ronaldo could do really well. And one free transfer, should I take out Traore or Torres? Look, I still prefer Torres over Traore. Traore just seems to be underperforming all the time. He has really good performances, just doesn't translate that into points. As for Torres, though, he's got really difficult fixtures. It ultimately depends if you're a fixtures or form guy. If you're a fixtures guy, then I'd probably get rid of Torres. If you're a form guy, I'd definitely keep him. Dylan, thanks for all the informative info. Your content is very educational about FPL. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Obviously, it's just my opinions and discussing FPL and football with you, and I appreciate that you find it useful. RL Inquire. Let me try find your message. Yeah, I'm trying to find your message. Yeah, there's so many messages. Oh, bro, I'm so sad. 31 points with no bonuses yet. Torres, Jimenez, Williams, Jota, Marçal, Arnold, blanks. I'll probably drop to 500k from 150. 3 players left. Sanchez, Benrahma, Ronaldo. No chance to have a good week. Yeah, but this is the thing. Don't feel too bad about it. Everyone's going to have a week like this. I probably will at some point. Maybe even next week in Game Week 6. And, I wouldn't really... FPL is just a game at the end of the day. Obviously, you want to do well, especially when you invest a lot of time into it. But... don't worry about it too much. Yeah, you might not do too well this week, even with those players that are yet to play. But you never know. They could still surprise you. And next week, you could get double the points. So what I would recommend to you is try not to be too reactionary and just get rid of the players who blanked this week and chase last week's points. Try to be patient and believe in the transfers you made. Should I add Pogba? In my opinion, no. I've been consistent about this. Despite all the assists he's been racking up, he's having a fantastic season. But especially now with Ronaldo in there, I just think that he's just going to be dropping deeper. He's going to have a more defensive role, and he can still get assists. But look at United's fixture run from Game Week 7 onwards. I just don't think it makes sense to get him in now. I think he's been vastly overperforming his underlying stats. His expected assists is not even 2, and he's got 7 assists. Of course, he's a quality player, and he deserves to be doing so well at this moment in time, but I just don't think he'll continue in the long run. Should I get rid of Ferran Torres? Look, I'd probably say yes, but that's only because of the really difficult fixtures coming up, and you'd probably find a bit better value elsewhere and maybe a higher ceiling. But Torres, in my opinion, is still one of the best options despite the fixtures and despite the rotation risk for his price, really. It's just a big shame that he doesn't always start. Really hoping for a Brighton clean sheet with Sanchez and Duffy. I honestly don't. I hope they concede 4 or 5, but it won't happen. But yeah, obviously I benched Sanchez. I played Foster, and he actually played, got a save point. Just a big shame that Pukki scored. That could have been, a masterclass, really. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But yeah, hopefully Leicester score 1 goal at least. That's just the way I'm seeing it. Obviously, it's a very selfish thing to say. Laser says Antonio's the most obvious captain option. Yeah, potentially. I think, considering how bad Leeds are defensively, especially compared to Villa and Brentford, it might actually be the most obvious. But I'm still tempted to captain Ronaldo at this moment in time, and I really like to favour the home fixtures this season. Good thing I kept Tony, was going to sell him last second. Yeah, if I had 2 free transfers, I think Tony would have been gone already, and I probably would have got in Rafinha in midfield. So yeah, it's probably a good thing. Ayling, Llorente, Strauch and Koch are all out. Yeah, I mean, Leeds are just looking really poor. Obviously, let's wait and see what happens with Ayling. He might make a fast recovery, but it's not looking good for them. What do you think? Sell Bamford to get Antonio back? Don't trust Leeds with form and injuries. If you just got Bamford in, I probably wouldn't do that. But if you've had Bamford from the beginning, and then yeah, I'd probably try to get Antonio in. I'd still prefer him. But Bamford's still a good option, of course. 42 points so far, 11k rank. Very good Ramit, very good rank. If Rafinha is injured, you have Bamford under 7 million replacements. Have Sarr, Jota, Salah, Benrahma and Brownhill. Good question. Yeah, I mean, I think Rafinha's going to be fine, but assuming he is injured, 7 million or under, that's a tough question. I mean, obviously, Gray I still think is a decent choice with the next few fixtures in mind, including Norwich. But then you can always move him on to Gallagher or Wildcard out of that. So I'd still say Gray is a good one, despite how poor Everton were today. But then again, look at how poor Everton's lineup was, and they were missing so many players, including Pickford and Richarlison. So yeah, I still think Gray's decent, but he's not really a reliable pick in my opinion, and his underlying stats don't suggest that he's going to continue his form in the long run. I'm on 61 points with 4 players to play. Sarr differential boosted me up the ranks. Yeah, that's really good, mate. 61 points, in my opinion, is an exceptional score. And you have 4 players left. Yeah, that's a fantastic game week for you, mate. I have 7.3 million. Who is the best? I'm guessing you're saying midfielder, Jack. 7.3 million midfielder or under. I still think Torres is a great option, but because of the fixtures, probably Rafinha, Sarr, maybe even Gray still, just for the next few game weeks at least. Sanchez and Trent or Alisson and Cancelo, I'd go for Sanchez and Trent, despite how good Cancelo is. I'm playing Sanchez, Trent, Shaw, Marcel, Salah, Gray, Benrahma, Jota, Ronaldo, Lukaku, Dennis in a 3-4-3 with Ronaldo captain. Thoughts and suggestions? Look, obviously Dennis scored today. I'm still not a big fan of him as an FPL asset because it's just tricky to know when to bench him and when to play him. Of course, Norwich was always going to be poised for returns for him and Sarr, but I still don't trust Watford offensively, so that would be a concern for me. But the rest of the team looks solid. Marcel was awful today, same with Wolves, but he's still a good choice in my opinion, around 4.6 million. And yeah, the rest is fine to be honest. Maybe Benrahma is someone to consider to get rid of in a few game weeks time. I probably wouldn't get rid of him just yet. And same with Jota, especially when he plays City. I remember like 2 weeks ago, I asked you about Saint-Maximin. You said you were not convinced and not worth it. Have you changed your opinion now? All of Newcastle points seem to come from him. Yeah, look, I still don't like him as an asset too much. Obviously, I recognised, even in my last stream, that he could do really well over the next 3 game weeks. But I don't trust Newcastle enough offensively. Of course, with Wilson not being there, Saint-Maximin is the main guy, but I still don't trust him enough. I still prefer Tony, honestly, despite me wanting to get rid of Tony before and maybe still doing the same thing. I don't know, it's just I'm not too kind of confident about Saint-Maximin, especially after the next 2 game weeks, but that's just a personal opinion. Always back your gut with these sort of decisions. I'm just offering my opinion and I'm still not really convinced. Should I have Pogba? Once again, I probably wouldn't. Is 37 points okay with Ronaldo, Shaw, Greenwood and Benrahma left to play? Yeah, I think so. Considering all the players left out, like you said, it's not too bad to be honest. I had a choice between Sarr and Adama and I picked Sarr. I would be top 1k. I'm currently 383 points. That's a really good score. And yeah, I have to say, a few weeks ago, people were asking me about Sarr and Torres and I still preferred Sarr. And he's just been doing the business, but obviously just today really. He's only had 2 hauls and a lot of blanks, but Traore is just so inconsistent and his underlying stats are fantastic, but his end product is awful. Jota is hurting, yeah, indeed, mate, indeed. It's a big shame. Sanchez, Trent, Digne, Wan-Bissaka, Mount, Salah, Gundogan, Smith Rowe, Bamford, Antonio, Lukaku, Foster, Duffy, Basuma, Amati. That's a good team. Okay, so ways to improve it. I think Digne is definitely kind of a red flag. Wan-Bissaka, you can also move to a Chelsea defender heading into game week 7. So that's 2 things you could change. I definitely keep Sanchez and Trent for now. Mount is another one who I think you could improve on, whether it's Jota, Rafinha, Sarr, or even Torres potentially in a few game weeks time. I would rather have a triple up of Chelsea from Lukaku and 2 defenders than having Mount or Havertz really, in my opinion. Smith Rowe, obviously, he can be a decent option, but I'm just not really too convinced. I prefer Gray. I'm not sure about Odegaard. I think they're going to be similar in terms of goal output this season potentially. Even Mbuemo, and he actually produced the goods today, almost got a second goal. Very unlucky not to score. And Gallagher, even Gallagher I think is a better option than Smith Rowe, especially when the fixtures turn. Bamford I still think is good, especially medium to long term. You've got Lukaku, which is fantastic. Foster, great, 4 million keeper who could potentially play some games, but I think it's because Backman was injured. Amati, he's someone who is a bit concerning, so he's not going to be playing from now on. So you can always try to move him on to Livramento if possible, or Ben White. So that's kind of ways to improve your team. Basuma, 4.5 million options aren't going to offer you too much, so that would be nitpicking in my opinion. So it's a good team, but I would be identifying Amati as a way to improve, Digne, Wan-Bissaka, and Mason Mount, and maybe even Smith Rowe. And to be honest, just a personal opinion, I don't like Gundogan too much as an FPL asset. Today he was awful, and he can still do well, but just don't expect the kind of heights he did from last season. But the rest is very good. I have Alonso on the bench this week. Is he okay, Chelsea defender, or should I sell? I don't really see a reason to sell him unless Chilwell starts in the next few games and Alonso is just not starting for you. That would be when I'd consider getting rid of him, but right now I just don't see the need. Bamford for Tony. It's really difficult, obviously, when Tony has just got a big haul, but I probably still think medium to long term Bamford is a better pick than Tony. If you can afford it, of course. Should I keep Traore? If not, who should I go for? I have 7.4 million for a midfielder. When the fixtures turn, I still prefer Torres over Traore, but otherwise maybe go for Rafinha if you don't have him already, or Sarr for the next few game weeks. Ben White in for Ayling. Look, obviously it's not ideal to get Ben White in ahead of Tottenham, but I think Arsenal have great fixtures up until game week 20, and this is something I talked about in my reaction stream yesterday, or my deadline stream. And yeah, I think Ben White is a better option than Ayling. Arsenal will keep more clean sheets than Leeds, But then again, Arsenal are a very iffy team. Should I keep Traore or go for -4 Sarr? That's a difficult one. Let me just check the fixtures again. So Watford play Newcastle. Yeah, I mean, he could easily, I'd say, kind of justify that hit. I probably would consider it. I'd be edging towards doing it because despite the fact that Traore might do well against Southampton, I just think that Sarr is a better option overall. But taking a hit isn't ideal. I'd probably still lean towards doing it rather than keeping Traore. I had triple Wolves, Torres captain and Trent vice captain. Not a good game week. Yeah, I mean, this is the case for a lot of people, to be honest. Can we bring Odegaard? Look, he scored a great free kick, but other than that, he wasn't really that impressive. And even when he creates a lot of chances, Arsenal just don't seem to click. And Arsenal just played, by the way, Burnley and Norwich. Two of the teams with the worst expected goals conceded in the entire league. And not only did they not really register high expected goals, especially against Burnley, but they just scored 1 goal in each game. So I'm not really too confident in Arsenal attack. If anything, I'd be looking at their defenders like Tomiyasu and White, but I'm not really looking at their attackers, including Odegaard. Are you going to keep Ayling? Well, what I want to do is probably wait until the press conferences next week before finalising my moves, but I'm considering getting rid of Ayling, maybe for a Chelsea defender, so I can downgrade Toney to a 4.5 million striker still, and then use that money to upgrade Ayling to an Alonso or a Rudiger. I think Rudiger would be a smarter choice because he's just more nailed, and Chua will definitely come in at some point, I think. I could be wrong about that though. Force on getting a Leicester defender. They have decent fixtures. I don't trust Leicester enough defensively, in my opinion. I would rather go for Chelsea defenders. I'm not on that wave yet, but I definitely want a Chelsea defender. It's something I considered even from Game Week 1, despite their tough fixtures for the opening 6. I think that's a bigger priority for me. Getting Alonso or Rudiger or both, potentially, maybe even a Christensen, rather than a Leicester defender like Pereira, who he could be decent. Same with Castagna, but Chelsea is the way to go for me. Do you think Grealish is better than Greenwood? I still prefer Greenwood, honestly, but I do like Grealish. Thank you very much to everyone who's putting in the comments. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the comments. And if you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. And we'll be going back to your questions. If I haven't answered, I will be going through them, of course. There's a lot of comments coming in. And also follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you wish. You can also send me in your teams there, and they can feature in future Rate My Team videos. And I also post regularly on those platforms talking about football, FPL and UCL fantasy. And by the way, there's going to be more Champions League fantasy content to come. Let's go back to the team. Let's go back to your questions. And let's go. So, Dylan, am I the only one thinking that Wood against Norwich is the best pun of Game Week 7 if you wildcard in Game Week 8? I think that could actually be a very good one. It's not something I've highlighted or noticed, but I think that is something to think about, Frigus. That's a really good suggestion. And, of course, if you have a big feeling about it, go for it. I think Burnley could still score 2 or 3 in that game. Will Ronaldo get good points tomorrow? I think he will, but maybe not as high as he did against Newcastle, but maybe 7 or 8 points. Bamford or Antonio for Game Week 5? Great question. I'm assuming you're saying Game Week 6. I would still go for Antonio. I think West Ham are just a much better team than Leeds this season, and I would prefer Antonio, and that's why I kept him in the end, and I didn't move to Bamford. What about Lukaku? Look, I'm looking to get him in from Game Week 7 or 8, whether on a wildcard or using free transfers, and I'm probably going to be moving Ronaldo on to Lukaku, and then vice versa around Game Week 15. So Lukaku is a great choice, of course. And against Spurs, I think Chelsea will win 2-0, and I think Lukaku will score, but I don't see his ceiling being astronomically high. But of course, Lukaku's capable of doing well. Greenwood to Gray, as I already own Sarr. I wouldn't do that just yet, but I think Gray is still a good choice over the next few, especially considering that Norwich fixture, so that could actually be on the card still. What to do with Jota? I'd still keep him for another week at least, but of course he's been very disappointing. In my situation, it's a bit different. I'm a bit more inclined to keep him because really, I just brought him in ahead of Game Week 4, I believe, when I got Ronaldo in also for a hit. Best midfielder, I have 9.8 million. Tell me what defenders or midfielders you have, Mateus, and I'll give you an answer, but I probably still would say the same lot. Greenwood and Jota, still 2 of the best. Kind of ignoring the fixtures, Torres is a great choice, and then of course you have Rafinha, Sarr. Sarr is someone that I'd say is really good for the next few, but not medium to long term. That's just my opinion on the matter. Fernandes and Toney to Vardy and Sarr for a -4 hit. Vardy captain. Yeah, I think Vardy could be really good for the next few. That's actually a shout. And Vardy captain, that makes sense, taking the hit. That could be really good, of course, though. Tony and Fernandes can easily score. Maybe not in Game Week 6 for Tony, but yeah, I maybe would be inclined to take that hit. Gaeta, Sanchez, White, Trent, Rudiger, Castagna, Livramento, Odegaard, Gallagher, Salah, Jota, Adama, Saint-Maximin, Ronaldo and Antonio. Thoughts? It's a good team. I'm not sure about Gaeta and Palace defence, but I do like Gallagher, of course, going into the future. That's a good pick. Adama, once again, I just don't trust him enough. That's why I've never gone for him. Saint-Maximin, good for the next few, but I don't like him beyond that. I like the other attackers. I like your other midfielders, except Odegaard. I'm not really a big fan of him FPL-wise, despite his goal today. But your defence looks really good. I have to say that. Leicester have very good fixtures. You've got Trent. You've got White, who's probably the best 4.4 million option or under, other than Duffy or maybe Livramento. And Rudiger, fantastic. You've got a Chelsea defender in there already. So that's a good team. Torres to Gray and get Rudiger in place of Ayling. Yeah, I think that looks like a shout, to be honest. I'd probably consider that. Of course, though, Torres is still a much better option than Gray. But with the fixtures in mind, I think that makes sense. Gallagher or Gray, same thing as before. I think Gray is better for the next few, considering the fixtures. But from Game Week 9 onwards, looking medium to long term, Gallagher's better. If you look at the underlying stats, he's just far superior, really. 56 points with 4 to play. Wondering if James is going to start. That's decent, yeah. 56 points, yeah, that's fantastic. And I think Reece James will start. Should I bring in Sarr? Depends who you bring him in for. Oh, for Torres. Considering the fixtures, I probably would, yeah. But just don't think of Sarr as a really long-term option. I think he's good for the next few, especially against Newcastle. But beyond that, just don't expect him to haul every week like he did today. Is it possible to play Aspi and James together in the same team? It definitely is. It could be Azpilicueta playing as one of the centre-backs alongside Thiago Silva and Rudiger, if not Christensen, and then Reece James plays as the right wing-back. It's happened before. When Chelsea are being a bit more offensive, that's when they tend to do that. Thanks, Dylan. Good luck to you for the rest of the game week. Thank you, the Scrambler. You too, mate. Double up on Chelsea defenders from game week 7? Definitely, mate. That's what I want to do. It's going to be really difficult to, but I think it's still possible. Need a midfielder below 5.5. Any names? Below 5.5, honestly, I'm not really infused by any of them. Around 5.6, 5.7, there's Gray and Gallagher, of course. Gray for the next few and Gallagher beyond that. But yeah, below 5.5, not for me. I think having Tomiyasu and Reguilon are shouts. Not Reguilon for me, but Tomiyasu, yes. I think considering Arsenal's fixtures for a long period of time, they're very good. I think that is actually a shout, but I'm not sure about Reguilon. Obviously, he's someone I thought would be pretty good, considering Spurs were keeping clean sheets for the first few game weeks, but you take a look at the underlying stats even before the Palace game, and Spurs were just very lucky to keep those clean sheets. And Reguilon, I don't know, I think you can just find better value elsewhere. Even Christensen, who might not play every game, but Chelsea's defence is just fantastic. Who would you start between Livramento and Semedo next week? They play each other. I would still probably go for Semedo, despite Livramento obviously doing really well this week. Remove Cody and Ayling and put Rudiger and Reece James. I mean, I would, but I just don't have the funds for that, really, to be honest. Yeah, I'd need to downgrade someone else. Maybe Tony to a 4.5 million defender, or striker, should I say, and I might use that money to upgrade Ayling. I probably wouldn't get rid of Cody just yet. I just got him in. And Wolves have some good fixtures coming up and a few clean sheets probably coming along the way. But yeah, Wolves were very poor today. Will Trent play or is he down with COVID? It's not COVID related. He's just an illness. He should be fine for the next game week. I have Sanchez, White, Trent, Shaw, Cody, Salah, Jota, Greenwood, Rafinha, CR7 and Antonio. 2.2 million in the bank. I don't really see a weakness there, in my opinion. Obviously, if Rafinha's injured and he's out, he's someone to look out for. You can get rid of him for Sarr, maybe, or Gray for the next few game weeks. I don't really see a weakness there, though. Of course, Cody, very disappointing today, but that's fine. Obviously, in game week 6, it's not ideal to play White, and you'd probably want to be playing Trent, Shaw, Cody, and then those same midfielders and the 2 strikers. And I'm not sure who else you have on your bench. So if your bench is really weak, Mateus, I'd probably look to improve your bench and have another option who can come in game week 6 for Ben White. I'd go Sarr over Adama, but Watford don't have the best games in the next 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, look, once again, even before the Norwich game, I still would preferred Sarr just because I think he's a better player and a better FPL asset than Adama Traore. But once again, I just don't see him as a long-term option. only got 9 points today and still have 7 players and Ronaldo's a captain. Do you think I'm still safe? You've got 7 players left, so you could easily still get 50 points or more. So yeah, I wouldn't say you're safe, but you still have a chance of having a good week. Thiago's 5.4, he's below 5.5. Fair enough, yeah. But I just don't see him as a viable option. I would rather have a 4.5 million bench fodder and then use that to invest in the rest of your team. Got only 35 points this game week. Should I be worried? Depends how many more players you have left to play, but if you have plenty more tomorrow, then it's fine. King Salah, best FPL asset of all time, probably, yeah, I have to say. Hi mate, should I use a transfer and switch Traore to Sarr? Great question. I probably would, but just bear in mind that he's only really there for the next few game weeks, and this is something I've been saying for a few game weeks. It's not something I'm saying just because Sarr hauled today. Sarr is a legend. Yeah, I mean, I probably would say that if I had him, but because I don't, I'm going to say no. Just a random question, Dylan. How long have you played FPL? You're so experienced and your opinions prove to be very logical. I'm actually not that experienced, I'm being completely honest there. I've been playing really for 2 seasons properly. I finished 67k in my first season, and last season I finished 55k. And in UCL Fantasy, same thing. Played 2 seasons, finished 20k and 4k or 3k. I need to double check that. And Euro 2020 Fantasy Football, finished around 45k. It wasn't really a great campaign, especially towards the end. But yeah, those are kind of my things. And I just offer my opinion. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. For example, Saint Maximin was not a really... Obviously, he's doing really well so far. I haven't given him enough credit, but still, someone I'm not too convinced about. But even then, Region has Arsenal next. Could be alright for Game Week 6. I don't think Spurs... Well, I mean, then again, Arsenal haven't been great offensively. It could be a 0-0, so you have a point. But I just don't trust Region. And look at the fixtures afterwards for Spurs. Just even forgetting Arsenal, they're not really that good. So I'm not really buying it personally. But of course, Region is still decent. When is it best advice to wildcard? Ultimately a team-dependent question, Joshua. But I'd say Game Week 7 is a good one. Game Week 8 might be even better. And this is something I talked about in the deadline stream yesterday. Let's look quickly at Game Week 7 and I'll explain my reasoning why. So in Game Week 7, we have Liverpool facing Man City. That's a great match. It could even arguably decide the title. 2 very good teams. And I just think it's a bit of an awkward time to be wildcarding into that. And then you look at Game Week 8, for example. City play Burnley, who once again have one of the lowest expected goals conceded in the entire league. Liverpool play Watford, who despite winning comprehensively today, Watford are still a bit sus in my opinion, especially defensively. So I think Game Week 8 might be an even better time to wildcard, where the fixtures is a big swing for most teams and there's not kind of any big clash between 2 big teams and it's a bit less awkward. And also, I think it's just about the time, let me double check that. Yeah, it's international break. So that could kind of be a double-edged sword. It could go against you. But I still think with the international break, it might be a really good time, because if you wildcard in Game Week 7, then the international break happens and you have a few injuries, you're in a really bad position heading into Game Week 8. So I'm actually thinking Game Week 8 might be the kind of ideal time to wildcard. If not, there's always Game Week 14, 15 when United's fixtures turn for the better again. And also there's going to be other game weeks coming about which might really pop up. At this moment in time, I'd say Game Week 8 is the standout potentially if you're looking to wildcard soon. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below and in the live chat. Do you like James Charles? No, no I don't. Short out for Rudiger? I probably would say yes. Maybe not just yet, but in Game Week 7 or 8 I probably would do that. Saint or Tony? Considering the fixtures, I'd say Saint Maximin, but as an overall asset, I still prefer Tony. But I'm still not too convinced about Ivan Toney as an overall asset. Livramento or Duffy? Great question. I think just because he's a bit cheaper, maybe Livramento, but in terms of who do I think is going to keep more clean sheets so long as he starts, I think Duffy, and he'll get more points. So if you have enough money and it's not really an issue, go for Duffy, but Livramento is significantly cheaper, well, by 0.2 anyway. Ronaldo and Bruno are in my fantasy. I've got 11 points. Will I get more points? Well, you definitely will. If you've got both of them, you would think you will. So you'll definitely get more points. It's just a matter of how much. You should be fine. Is Harrison going to be fit for next week? That's something I'm not as sure about. I think Rafinha will, but with Harrison, maybe not. And even if he is, he might just come off the bench. Is 55 points good? I think it's a very good score this week. Should Sancho start tomorrow? Should he? Not so sure. I don't think he deserves to based on his recent performances. He hasn't really done too well so far. Is he going to start? I think he might, yeah. Should I get rid of Bamford for Antonio as my transfer, or use a transfer to get Rafinha out? I probably wouldn't get rid of Rafinha out just yet. He could still play in game week 6. Let's just wait for more information there. I prefer Antonio over Bamford, but if you just did that and you got rid of Antonio for Bamford, I wouldn't be doing the reverse the week later. That's my opinion, despite me thinking that Antonio is a better option. Best attacker under 6.6. Great question. I think for the next 2 or 3, Saint-Maximin probably. But overall, Ivan Toney, Armstrong still, I think is a good choice. Pukki could be decent, but I think, yeah, I'd mainly be looking at Armstrong. Also, long term, so when the fixtures turn for Palace, I like the look of Edouard. Just obviously based on his 13-minute cameo or whatever it was against Spurs. But yeah, I'd probably say those 3 names. Edouard, looking long term for the next few game weeks to say Maximan, and overall probably Ivan Toney. Traore replacement for the next 5 game weeks. I think Sarr or Gray could be really good if you're looking at someone around that price bracket. But yeah, long term, probably not. Best defender to replace Ben White for next week. I wouldn't be getting rid of Ben White from your team overall, but to actually replace him in the starting lineup, I don't know how much budget you have available. That could be interesting. Maybe even Livramento could be decent. Or let's see, Duffy? Yeah, I think Duffy could be decent. Yeah, against Norwich, that could be really good. So I'd say Duffy or Livramento if you're looking at a really cheap option, potentially. I don't know how much budget you have available. -8 for Sarr, I wouldn't go overboard like that in my opinion. Hail Thav. Went Toney to King as a punt -4. King got 10 points, which isn't bad. Wow, yeah, I mean, that's not too bad overall because Toney did haul. That could have ended up much worse, so that's not the worst in the world. Should I replace Rafinha? I wouldn't replace him just yet. Once again, I'd wait and see for the press conferences and then make a decision when we have more information. How have you managed to hold Toney until now? Honestly, it's because I had 1 transfer heading into game week 5. That's why I kept Toney. Otherwise, I might have actually just got rid of him. I already said this before. If I had 2 free transfers, what I probably would have done is got rid of Ivan Toney, downgrade him to a 4.5 million and upgrade Brownhill to Rafinha or maybe even Sarr, probably Rafinha though. And if not, maybe just get a Chelsea defender in the defence to replace probably Ayling. That's what I probably would have done if I'm looking at it honestly. Unless I could have found a way to upgrade Toney to Bamford or something like that. But even then, I don't know, that would require a downgrade from Jota or Greenwood. Take out Benny or Jota for Sarr. I think Benrahma's fixtures are really good for the next 2. I think Jota, you can get rid of him for Sarr. This is the thing though, obviously you want Sarr for that Newcastle game. I completely understand that. I'd say maybe Jota, but I honestly have a good feeling. Well, maybe not a good feeling. I just have a gut feeling that Jota will score against Brentford. I don't know why. Maybe that's a bit foolish. Trauma Kid says, do you like James Charles? What? They aren't even a footballer. Get off the chat asking nonsense like that. I mean, to be fair, we've had some kind of comments about everything, including films and Formula 1, which is good sometimes. Of course, I don't mind that. But James Charles, no, I'm definitely not a fan of that. No offence. Don't get Duffy if you already have Sanchez, though. That's way too risky. That's true. That's a good point. And this is what I've said before, especially with Veltman. I was considering a double up in Brighton defence from the beginning of the season, and I just didn't go for it because I don't trust Brighton that much, although they've been pretty good this season. Can you recommend a squad with Arnold, Lukaku, Ronaldo, Salah, please? I don't want to plug, but check out my video where I talk about the best Game Week 5 wildcard team, and at the end of the video, you can see a draft of all 4 of them. Transfer Gray for Greenwood. Getting rid of Gray for Greenwood? I don't know if it's the best time to get Greenwood in, to be honest, because he's got really tough fixtures coming up from Game Week 7, and I expect more rotation after Game Week 5 for Greenwood. Should I keep Torres in, as I don't know if he'll play? Not just that, I just think the fixtures are really poor for City. So if we look, in Game Week 7, or Game Week 6... yeah, Chelsea is up next for Torres. And then in Game Week 7, they play Liverpool. Torres can still do well and City can still score a few goals, but I think the ceiling's just too low and you can find someone else. So because of the fixtures, I'd probably get rid of him. But in the future, I mean, you can always bring him back. I think it's a great option. Benrahma, time to get rid. Unless he's injured, I don't think so. Not right now. I think he's got 2 good fixtures coming up. And if he doesn't do well there, then I think is the time to get rid of him. Not owning Ronaldo is really narrowing my captain options, and we'll have to captain Salah in Game Week 6 too. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, to be honest. And you don't have to get Ronaldo in now. The good thing would be is if you have enough money and transfers to get in Lukaku, for example, heading into Game Week 7. Thoughts on the Wolves game? Look, I think Brentford could have scored even more goals. I mean, look at the chance that Mbeumo had at the end when he hit the crossbar. Wolves were just absolutely poor. They were off it today, and stupid mistakes like the Marçal penalty, which Tony converted. Look, I think Wolves are a bit inconsistent, but still, I think their defenders offer good value. I just don't trust their midfielders and attackers enough, not only with rotation, but just in terms of end product. Sterling, not for me. I think he's awful this season, honestly, and even last season, he's not someone I'd be going for. Best goalie, 5 million and under until the second wildcard. Great question. That's a great question. I think still Sanchez or Jose Sa. Looking at the fixtures, Jose Sa would be the standout. But yeah, I still think Sanchez is good. But the fixtures are very tough for Brighton. Was a great start after game week 2. Was 2,396. Brought in Kane in game week 3 and 4. Took him out before this game for Lukaku. No, I'm around 110,000. Not happy. That's still a good rank, to be honest. And once again, not much of a difference between where you are now compared to that rank you were at previously. So I wouldn't worry too much. But of course, a decision like that, Kane, if he hauled, you would be in a much better position going into game week 6. But yeah, these things can happen. You're not always going to get it right. If Antonio's better than Bamford, then why would it matter if you did the reverse swap last game week? Surely just aim to maximise points. Yeah, but then you might fall into this vicious cycle where you constantly change things every single week and chase last week's points. Bamford still did well, and if Leeds score, Bamford will still be a big part of that, in my opinion. But of course, I get what you mean. If you think Antonio's going to score more, go for him, of course. I'm not going to argue otherwise. But I just think if you got Bamford in, then just give him a chance because you just got him in and you're getting rid of him in the next week. That's just my opinion anyway, of course. And maybe if I did the same thing and I wanted Antonio back, I probably would do the reverse. But I've just, at least from personal experience, I've had instances sometimes where I make a transfer, then I want that player back, and then I just keep doing the same thing. And I just don't think it actually helps your team overall, where you could actually use that transfer and improve another weakness in your team. Hey there, mate. Hope you are good. Keep Saka or replace him for Sarr. I'd get Sarr in instead of him. I just don't really rate Saka as an FPL asset, so I definitely would prefer Sarr or even Gray. Trent and Duffy to James and Cancelo game week 7 and 8. I'm not a big fan of getting rid of Trent. Duffy is one of the best budget options, but James and Cancelo is really promising. I get why you'd want to do that. I'd try to find a way not to get rid of Trent and maybe just get one of them in, so maybe Reece James. The two dislikes are James Charles fans, maybe, Alpha, maybe. Who to get under 4.8 million defender? I still think Marçal's a good choice. Looking at the fixtures, I think he's good. Ben White even. If you're looking really long term, I think he's decent. Of course, not ideal because he's got Tottenham now, but yeah, I think long term he's good. Dude, I had Tony as well. DCL to Bamford and just couldn't stomach the -4 to change Tony. Took the -0.14 and benched him today full, but got graced by Trent not playing. Wow, that's really lucky, but of course, fair play, mate. And you still kept on with Tony, so that's good. You could have easily taken a hit and it would have backfired and you would have been kicking yourself and you didn't, so that's good. Hi, mate. Will Jota play good? Will Jota play good? I don't know, to be honest. The way he's playing right now, probably not. But I think he will play against Brentford and I think he will score, but I'm being a bit foolish there maybe. Vardy or Antonio? I still prefer Antonio, but Vardy for the next few game weeks could actually be one of the best differential captains. Trent out? No, I wouldn't get rid of him. He had an illness, or he has an illness, but it's not COVID. He should be fine for game week 6. I have 0.3 million left. Who can I replace Sissoko with? I wouldn't be making a transfer on Sissoko. There's no one at 4.8 million or under. Of course, I prefer Brownhill slightly over Sissoko, but that's not enough to warrant a transfer. I'd save the transfer if possible and use it on someone else, Kieran. Ramsdale, best 4.5 million keeper for me. Assuming he continues to start, which he should, to be honest. He was very good again once again today. 3 clean sheets in 3 games. You can't ask for much more. And he offers a presence for the Arsenal backline. But then again, Leno does have a lot of kind of credit in the bank. But yeah, I think assuming Ramsdale continues to start, he's probably the best goalkeeper option up until game week 20, probably. Replace Mings with who? I mean, a clean sheet today, but I'd definitely get rid of him. Once again, I'd be looking at someone around 5 million or under, maybe Christensen. He's still a great choice, but just kind of, you have to stomach the occasional benchings. Both Ronaldo and Lukaku, yeah, but it's going to probably impact your team. You might not be able to get Trent or Salah, and I definitely don't want to go without Salah, to be honest. So at this moment in time, I'd be leaning towards having one of them. For the next 2, Ronaldo, but then after that, Lukaku is the clear winner in terms of the fixtures. Adama needs to get cross-training. He needs a lot of training in terms of finishing as well, in my opinion. Honestly, I'm thinking of Salah captain, set and forget rest of the season, even in the hard games. I think in the hard games, I'd probably still go someone else, especially if, for example, Ronaldo plays Norwich. I don't think it makes sense to just captain Salah there, but I get why you say that. Yeah, try not to spam the chat, Charlie. I already answered your question as well. Keep Traore long term then? Not in my opinion, Laser, to be honest, because the underlying stats are great, the fixtures are, but he just isn't getting the points. So not for me. Tomiyasu and Ben White, best 4.5 million defenders, potentially. If once again, looking at Arsenal's fixtures, let me actually go through it. So up until game week 20, I mean, look at Arsenal's fixtures. Apart from Spurs, apart from Leicester, Liverpool, Man United, and maybe West Ham, I think the rest are really good fixtures. Everton away isn't the easiest, but so many good ones. I mean, Wolves at home is decent. Norwich away, very good. Crystal Palace at home and Villa at home. Maybe they're not the greatest, but for a budget 4.4 million option like Ben White, you can't really go wrong in my opinion. So very good fixtures long term. Of course, there's some kind of difficult ones sprinkled in between, but he's decent. Then again, though, I just don't expect too much attacking potential. If you want a bit more from that department, then Tomiyasu is definitely one to look out for. White and Marcel, I agree, Laser, yeah. Sarr, Gray, Adama, St. Max, or Chelsea defender? Chelsea defender for me, mate. That is an absolute priority. Not ideal heading into City in game week 6, but it's a long-term move, and I really want to be trying to prioritizing these medium to long-term moves this year. I could easily have gotten Rafinha or Sarr this week, and I would have benefited now. But would I have benefited long-term? Maybe not. Of course, that might be a bit foolish to say because Rafinha has good long-term fixtures, but I wanted to get rid of Tony because he was a weak link before this week. And guess what? Maybe he isn't. We'll have to wait and see, of course. I'm actually going to have probably a big selection headache. And I've got 2 free transfers. And honestly, I mean, maybe the obvious thing is to get rid of Benrahma and just get Rafinha in anyway. But do I want to keep Tony in long term? Let's look at his fixtures. They're not really good, if we're being honest. Liverpool at home, I just don't really expect much. West Ham away, Chelsea at home, Leicester at home. Then, yeah, followed by 3 very good fixtures. But do I want to keep him through those 4 tough ones? I don't know. He could still easily do well, but it's very risky in my opinion. And then, once again, straight after that, some pretty tough ones coming up for Brentford and Tony. Who has a higher ceiling, a 6 million midfielder or a 6 million defender like Cancelo for long term? I think a 6 million defender like Cancelo or a Chelsea one, I think, especially when you're looking at someone with attacking potential and bonus points potential like Cancelo, Reece James and Alonso. So in my opinion, the 6 million. Arteta said himself that he doesn't know if Leno will play again this season. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, what could happen is Leno plays in the Cups now and Ramsdale plays in the Premier League, of course. But yeah, that would be very shocking if Leno doesn't play at all. In any game. Of course, in the Premier League you might be right, but I think Leno will get some games. It's just a question of, is it going to be in the league or not? Jota for Sarr. Look, I think Sarr will outscore Jota this week, considering the fixture and Newcastle are awful defensively. Yeah, I think it makes sense for the next few, but then Sarr might be someone you want to get rid of further down the line. The amount of points is possible for Trent in attack is as good as some midfielders and clean sheets. 7.5 is amazing, exactly. And imagine, back in the day, before his kind of explosive season with double-digit assists for the first time, he was so cheap. So imagine that. 5 must-have FPL assets, medium or long-term? Great question. I still think Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think Lukaku, definitely. A Chelsea defender, so Rudiger, Reece James or Alonso, take your pick. I think if you want someone safe, go for Rudiger. And if you want someone a bit more explosive of attacking potential, go for either Reece James or Marcos Alonso. So those would be my kind of 4. So one of the fullbacks for Chelsea and Rudiger, Salah, Trent. And as for a final choice, this is an interesting one. I'd probably say either Rafinha or Bamford, not both though. I don't trust Leeds enough offensively and defensively really. But yeah, I'd probably go for one of them as well. But I'm more convinced about the first few names I said. Liverpool and Chelsea are looking really good. From City, you could arguably go for Cancelo after the next 2 game weeks for City. That's when the fixtures turn and they have a very good run. And City are fixture-proof, to be fair. If Cancelo can maintain that starting berth, he is also a fantastic choice at the back. Should I put 2 Chelsea defenders? At least 1 for sure. And if you're asking me, 2 Chelsea defenders and Lukaku is the sweet spot heading from Game Week 7 onwards. Transfer targets this game week. From my point of view, look, it's the same as last week, so I don't want to, be reactionary once again. But I think Rafinha, maybe even Sarr or Gray in the midfield. And to do that, I'd have to downgrade Tony to a 4.5 million striker. So that's risky, of course. But then again, Tony has some really difficult fixtures coming up. And if not, I think looking at the defence, I probably would want to move Ayling to a Chelsea defender. So that's something I'm considering. Of course, it's a bit of an awkward time to get a Chelsea defender with them facing City. But long term, I think it just is the right move. So Chelsea defender, Rafinha, Sarr, or Gray. That's kind of my transfer targets this week. And that would require downgrading someone, potentially Jota or Tony. And I know a lot of people will be saying downgrade Jota, he's just useless. Cancelo or Diaz? Assuming Cancelo continues to start, I'd probably go for him. I think he just offers more bonus points and attacking potential. But of course, Diaz is kind of nailed, set and forget. And that's kind of the big good thing about him, really. 45 points for free to play. Very good, to be honest. I think that's a good score. Anything over 40, really, and you still have players left is fine for me. Watching Jimenez play broke my heart, man. He used to be an FPL legend. I still think he can recover, but of course, a big part of his game is heading, and it might take a while for him to get that back if he ever does. Bailey, bench option. I mean, this is the thing though. Bailey might be an awkward one to be benching. You just don't know when to start him. You don't know when to bench him. So I'm not too sure about that. Tielemans or Sarr? Definitely Sarr for me, mate. I'm going to double up on Chelsea defenders for Game Week 7. I will also have Trent. Is it too expensive? Not necessarily. You can always go big at the back and it doesn't matter. You get the points really. Keep hold of Barnes or get rid of him. Obviously, they have really good fixtures now, and if you kept him this far, maybe it makes sense to just continue to play him. And when you look at players from a similar price bracket, you know, Torres has very tough fixtures coming up for the next two. Jota's going to have some tough ones coming up, and Firmino will come back at some point. And then Greenwood, really tough fixture swing from Game Week 7 onwards for a very long time. And he's probably going to be rotated with Rashford when he comes back, Martial, Cavani, and of course all the other options that United have at their disposal. So maybe you could keep him, but I still prefer medium to long term Rafinha if you can get to him. Of course, let's wait and see if he is injured or not. Is Sarr a good short term option? Yep, I think so. Up until Game Week 8, I think he's a really good one. 60 points with Ronaldo, Lukaku and Sanchez remaining. That's exceptional, to be honest. Should I replace Jota with someone else against Brentford or keep him? I probably would keep him for Brentford, but then after that, look to sell him. Yeah, you already have Torres. Yeah, I probably would just keep Jota. Who would you start, Livramento or Marcel next week? Probably still Marcel, but of course Livramento and Southampton look much better than Wolves today. I have 66 with 2 to play. Once again, really good. Oh no, hey Alfred. My Game Week 5 just not going as expected. Didn't bring in Rafinha and he scored. Took Tony out and he scored. Got Jimenez in and Wolves got battered. Tough feelings, bro. Yeah, but no, to be honest, I have no sympathy because you keep calling me Alfred. Joking, mate. Yeah, I mean, getting rid of Tony, that is a bit obviously kind of disappointing, but when you look long term, I think it might be the right call. I mean, look at the fixtures coming up, and I'm in a bit of a kind of dilemma here. Obviously, the kind of 12 points he got is swaying me to keeping him, but maybe it isn't the right choice. And yeah, Jimenez, let's wait and see if he can get that form back. And Rafinha, he's another one. I could have got him in, and I could be looking at an even better score and game week. I ended up just not going for him, just because I didn't want to take a hit or just get rid of Benrahma for Rafinha when I probably would want to get rid of Tony in Game Week 6. It is what it is. Bailey went off injured, so don't get him in, guys. Yeah, and also just, yeah, he scored. He had a very good performance today, but I just wouldn't get him in just yet and just chase last week's points. Villa still have some tough games coming up. Chelsea's safest option defence is actually the goalkeeper, potentially, but even then, if you look at last season, Kepa occasionally came in. Not too often. I think it happened against Newcastle at home and games like that. It probably won't happen too much, but you might have a point there. Rudiger is still kind of, I'd say, a bit prone to rotation, just not too much. The great thing about Rafinha is he gets these consistent points, if not a haul. He did it last season, it goes unnoticed, exactly, and he's 6.5 million. Thoughts of having one City midfielder striker? It's always a risk, and whoever you pick, it's going to be just, you're going to be looking at the lineup and hoping he starts. Grealish and Gundogan are the most nailed, but they're not necessarily the best options this season. I think Torres is still the best in terms of value for money, but you're going to have to stomach the occasional benchings. Yeah, a City midfielder can be fine, especially when they have good fixtures coming up after Game Week 7, I believe, but still, I think it's just a bit awkward, obviously, and I don't like the Pep Roulette. I hate it, and I suffer from it whenever I get one of their players, and except for maybe the defenders. You kept Tony. Right now, jealous. I'm jealous, yeah. I mean, honestly, once again, I probably would have got rid of him if I had 2 free transfers available, just to be completely honest. Dropped from 38k last night to 200k, 31 with only Ronaldo captain and Duffy left. Yeah, these weeks can happen to all of us, to be honest. And look, in my case, I probably would be looking at a red arrow if it wasn't for Tony. So sometimes it's down to luck, really. Southampton Wolves is screaming 0-0 draw. You know what? You might have a really good point there, but then again, Southampton might be a bit more adventurous in that game, you know, considering the fact they're at home. Against City, they had a bit of a different game plan, and maybe they were a bit fortunate not to concede. But yeah, you might be onto something there. Jota or Adama to Sarr. I would move Adama to Sarr and keep Jota for Brentford, and then maybe move him on to someone else later on. Just realised Everton have an amazing fixture swing from Game Week 19. Damn. Yeah, I mean, it's very important to kind of keep these kind of game weeks in mind with different teams. Try to have some plans going into the future, but try to be open-minded. That's a good shout. Tony could get a price rise after his performance. The common player will see points this game week and go, go, go. Exactly. Which is ideal for me in a way, but then again, I'm not really too bothered about price rises, but you might be right, to be honest. A lot of casuals just look at the last game week points, or they look at form or the ICT index. They don't really put too much thought into it. They just see, oh, who got the goals, who got the assists, and they get them in. Would you transfer out Tierney now for James? I probably would. Despite the fixtures for Arsenal, Reece James and Chelsea are just far better than Arsenal assets. 54 points with 5 to play. Really good, mate. And by the way, thank you very much to everyone for 250 people watching on a Saturday night. Really appreciate it, guys and girls. Do I sell Torres for Sarr for next game week? I think yes. The only reason I'm saying that, and it's not because Torres got benched and because Sarr did really well, it's because of the fixtures. I think Torres has really tough fixtures. He can do well, but his ceiling is just lower. Any tips on bench boost? Yeah, I wouldn't bench boost anytime soon. I would be waiting for a double game week in the second half of the season, and if you wildcard just before a bench boost, you could theoretically have 15 players with 2 games, and that is just, it has a really high ceiling if you do something like that. So I would wait with a bench boost. Sanchez, Foster, Trent, Shaw, Simicas, Amati, Ayling, Salah, Basuma, Torres, Greenman, Rafinha, CR7, Bamford, Antonio. Please rate my team and tell me who should come in for game week 6. I like the team. You have 2 good keepers. Nothing wrong there. Trent, Shaw, Simicas, Amati, Ayling. I think the defence is the weakness, looking at it there. Yeah, I would look to get a Chelsea defender in, maybe Shaw to a Rudiger or a Reece James. Amati is someone to look out for. Ayling, of course, is an injury concern, so I would look to invest more money into your defence. That is the big weakness, but the rest of your team is really good. Your attack is fine. Your midfield is solid, of course, but your defence is a cause for concern with Amati not playing because of Vestergaard coming back. Ayling, yeah, I mean, he's an injury doubt anyway, and Leeds are awful defensively. And Simicas is not going to play most weeks. It'll be Robertson, and you're going to be basically down to Trent and Shaw potentially. So look to improve your defence somehow. Maybe do Shaw to Rudiger and use some money from elsewhere to upgrade Amati and Ayling. Should I roll my transfer and bring in Mount for Jota and CR7 out for Big Rom? Look, honestly, this is just my opinion, of course. I would do Ronaldo to Big Rom in game week 7 or game week 8, but I wouldn't get Mason Mount in. The reason why is because I'd be more inclined to get 2 Chelsea defenders, and I'd be more confident in Chelsea keeping clean sheets than Mount getting attacking returns. Yeah, Cosmas, apologies for skipping your comment. I mean, I don't mean to skip comments. It's just there's so many coming in, and I'm trying to catch up. And of course, you can always put your comment once again, but just don't spam the chat. That's the only thing I'll ask. And I'm not saying that, by the way, because you're putting a lot of comments in. It's just, you know, repeating the same question. Just kind of a message for everyone. Best midfielder for game week 6? Great question. Let me look quickly at the fixtures once again. Best midfielder? That's a good question. I think Gray could be really good against Norwich. Ismaila Sarr for sure against Newcastle. I think Sarr would be kind of my standout. Of course, there's the usual Salah picks that you can go for, but I probably would say yes, Sarr is looking really good. Maybe even Gray against Norwich, and also Harvey Barnes against Burnley. That could be very good too, honestly. And Greenwood against Villa. I like the look of that. Yeah, I'd probably go with those sorts of players. Sarr or Gray? Great question. Looking at the next 2 fixtures overall, if you're planning to wildcard in game week 8, I'd probably say Sarr, and then you can always wildcard him out. But yeah, up until game week 12, I think Gray's the better option. Hi Dylan, I know this is a long comment, but what do you think about my team? Sarr, Cancelo, Rudiger, Duffy, Trent, Salah, Rafinha, Sarr, Vardy, Bamford, Lukaku, currently 75k. Very good rank. It's a really good team. You've got some nice differentials in there like Vardy. Sarr could be very well poised in game week 6. In terms of ways to improve, I mean, that's a really good team, to be honest. It's not really... It doesn't have a weakness. Of course, Sarr and Wolves are a bit iffy, but I think that's fine, having a goalkeeper or defensive cover there. Honestly, there's not really a way to improve. Obviously, keep an eye on Rafinha. Is he going to be ready in the next game week? And I'm not too convinced about Leeds double up in attack this season, but can still do well for the next few. I swapped Odegaard and Antonio for Bamford and Smith Rowe before this game week. Oh, damn. Yeah, and obviously Odegaard did score. Yeah, but at least Bamford got an assist. Rafinha's a must at 6.5, would stand out in a top 6 team. I remember buying him on Fantasy Manager 17 or 18 from a team in Portugal. Yeah, Sporting Lisbon, the same team that Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo came from. So that's why I think Rafinha and Bruno are kind of mates there. Yeah, he is a bargain. The thing is with Rafinha though, he can have a great game and not get you the points. But you're completely right. And he's someone I want to get in. But what I'm thinking about, and by the way, let me know what you think in the live chat. I'm thinking of doing Ivan Toney to a 4.5 million striker and then upgrading Brownhill to Rafinha. And this is something that I was thinking about from before the Newcastle game, by the way. If not, Benrahma to Rafinha. But I think Benrahma might outscore Rafinha in game week 6, and it doesn't really make too much sense to get rid of Benrahma right now. So I'm a bit more inclined to get rid of Toney and get Rafinha in and switch to a 5 in midfield. But the problem with that is that I might actually want to have 3 strikers going into the long run. So let me know what you think about that. Should I get rid of Toney or get rid of Benrahma? And of course, I'll probably be looking to make 2 free transfers this week. The Tony Hall was a bit lucky, so selling him is a correct choice. Take the points and run. Yeah, I'm thinking of that, Ninad, to be honest. Does anyone know any girls that play FPL? Well, there are, just not many, to be honest. But there have been a few girls in the live chat, obviously. And obviously, don't try to do any catcalling or anything. But yeah, there have been. And it's becoming more popular amongst, women and females. So yeah, there are, just not too many. I went Gray over Sarr in for Harrison at the last minute. I mean, still, Gray could actually outperform Sarr in game week 6 against Norwich. But of course, yeah, it's not looking too good so far. We are now getting Tuchel roulette. Yeah, exactly, mate. Lukaku is the most nailed, though. That's what I like about him. Hopefully I haven't jinxed him there. 59 points with Sanchez, Lukaku, and short to play. Really good, Oliver. And you could easily be on 70 points. Can we take a moment and acknowledge how toxic Liverpool's attack is? Absolute poison. Yeah, exactly. Salah, though, really good. When are the double game weeks likely to be? Is it normally around Christmas? They're normally in the second half of the season. So from January onwards, it tends to be really February, March, April, But there can be around, I think, January, yeah. Last season, the first big double game week we got was game week 19. That was a huge one. And I think it was around January. So yeah, that's around that time. Thoughts on Ings, chat, and Dylan? I still prefer Watkins because he's slightly cheaper and I just think he has better underlying stats. But of course, Danny Ings got an assist today and he's very clinical. That's what I like about Ings. He doesn't need too many opportunities to get end product and points. So maybe, assuming he stays fit, he might be the more reliable pick than Watkins. But in terms of underlying stats, I think Watkins is better. Should I get in a Chelsea defender or City or try get both? I would rather prioritise a Chelsea defender. But of course, City, you can get both, but I'd rather get Chelsea. Early captaincy shouts. I think Ronaldo, Antonio, Salah are the standouts this week. And let me actually look at anyone else. If you want an ultra differential, you could always go for Gray, but of course, don't hold me to that. Don't just do it because I said he's decent. Sarr against Newcastle could be really good. But in terms of reliable captaincy choices, Bruno Fernandes, very good record against Villa, and also Ronaldo. They're both good. And if not, yeah, once again, Salah against Brentford is a good choice. And Antonio, yeah, against Leeds. Those would be kind of my main 4 picks at this moment in time. Foster versus Newcastle or Sanchez versus Palace. That's a tough one because Palace, I think, are better than Newcastle right now, at least defensively. But then again, I prefer Brighton defence over Watford. So that's a tough one. And that's something I'd have to think about. But Backman should be fully fit by then and he could just reclaim the spot. Should I keep Gallagher or Douglas Luiz? I would get rid of Douglas Luiz. But then again, yeah, I mean, let me check his price. I don't want to give you false information. Douglas Luiz. Yeah, he's 4.5 million. Yeah, I'd just keep him then because I don't like to make transfers on 4.5 million options. So if anything, maybe get rid of Gallagher. But he's someone that you'd want to have from game week 9, 10 onwards, really. 37 points with at least 6 more to play. 7 if Amati plays. Amati probably won't play, but yeah, 6 players coming in, that's fine. That's a really good position to be in. Salah to me seems like the obvious Game Week 6 captain. Ronaldo also in the mix, but Villa are usually solid defensively. That's a good point. I just think the home factor, I think United have been the best attacking team, if not the second best in the league so far. You might be right though, Salah could be the better captain. It's something that I'm not, completely set in stone about. But right now, I currently have it on Ronaldo. They're both great choices, I think. You can't really go wrong. Hi Dylan, hi Sian. Just remember guys, Marcel is an out of position centre-back who plays left-back since Aït-Nouri. Yeah, that's the reason why I went with Cody instead, but either way, I'm not really too kind of convinced by either of them, or at least not by Cody. I just don't know if he's going to offer too much, really. I need him to keep clean sheets, really. Trent updates, please. He doesn't have COVID, but he has an illness. He should be fine for Game Week 6, if not Game Week 7. So nothing I'm really too worried about. De Bruyne, not for me, mate. I mean, I want to wait and see from City and De Bruyne. But I just think with Pep Roulette, 12 million, around that price, not for me. I'd rather have Lukaku up front and Salah in midfield. Soyuncu, Cody, Diaz, Matip, Livramento, these are my defenders. Should I change any defender and who to start? Thank you. Look, as much as Soyuncu has really good fixtures coming up, I would still be tempted to get rid of him. Diaz is good long term. Matip, look, I would rather obviously have Trent, but for budget purposes, you probably can't get him. Matip is just someone I don't like too much anyway, if I'm being honest. So Matip and Soyuncu I'd look to get rid of, and Livramento is fine as your 5th defender. So I'd keep Cody and Diaz, and I'd probably get rid of Soyuncu and Matip. But of course, if you really back Leicester to keep clean sheets, maybe keep him. But you can maybe improve that somehow. What to do with Traore and Benrahma? I'd keep Benrahma for the next 2 game weeks, then sell probably. As for Traore, if you just can do him to Sarr or Gray, I'd probably do that if you want someone for the next few game weeks. How long is Richarlison out for? Is it really affected Gray against Villa? Yeah, I think so. And Everton were just poor, and their lineup was awful from the beginning. So maybe we shouldn't be too surprised about the result. I'm not sure about how long Richarlison's out for. We need to look out for Pep's. Rafa Benitez's comments. Tony out for a 4.5 million is better in my opinion. Yeah, it is probably. And then I can either get Rafinha midfield or Sarr. And if not, I can get a defender in like... yeah, but I don't know about getting a Chelsea defender in against City, really. I could maybe get more returns in Game Week 6 specifically from a midfielder. What happens to Timo? This guy just disappeared. You're about Werner, right? Yeah, I mean, he's going to be in and out of the team, but yeah, Lukaku's the main guy now. Duffy or Livramento? Look, if you don't have Sanchez, I'd say Duffy, but if you have Sanchez, just go Livramento. Saint-Maximin overlooked? Potentially, even by me, but I just think for the next 2 game weeks he's fine, but beyond that I wouldn't want to have him. Force on Jota, Dylan? He's just been massively underperforming, and whenever I get him he just seems to be really poor, to be honest. So look, I'd keep him ahead of Brentford, but long term, especially when Firmino comes back, he's someone I might obviously get rid of. Benrahma to Gray or Jota for a -4 hit? Look, Jota can do really well this week, but I'm not sure about getting him in with a hit. I mean, I don't know about that. I wouldn't get rid of Benrahma for a hit, honestly. Looking at the next 2 fixtures, I'd probably keep him. Raya, set and forget. Sanchez is in the bin. I still think Sanchez is good, but yeah, maybe Raya, he might be good. I mean, look, if I wildcard in Game Week 8, obviously I might kind of ignore the tough fixtures for Brentford and just go for Raya. He's actually been doing really well. Who's the best goalkeeper for fantasy? I mean, to be fair, just as mentioned just now, I'd say Raya is a good choice, but there's also Sanchez. Jose Sarr is still good for the next few game weeks at least. And then, yeah, I mean, other than that, no one that really stands out. Of course, Lloris is doing really well, but I don't like Spurs' defence and their fixtures. Yeah, I'd probably be looking at those names. Sarr or Gray for Fernandes for this game week? I wouldn't be getting rid of Fernandes ahead of Villa, personally. Yeah, there's no need to spam the chat, mate, because, I won't be answering your question if you spam the chat. Okay, so Spogta says, I have Salah, Jota, Rafinha, Sarr and Benrahma, but I want Gray for Norwich. Who would you transfer out? Look, if I had to transfer someone out, I'd probably go with Benrahma or Rafinha. Obviously, with Rafinha, I think he'll be the lowest scoring, at least on paper, based on the fixture in Game Week 6, but he's a better medium to long-term option then Benrahma. So I'd probably get rid of Benrahma there. Should I be worried? I have 45 points for Rudiger and Ronaldo still to play. You could still easily get 60, so I wouldn't be too worried. Will Bachmann not fit today or just dropped? I think he wasn't fully fit, that's why. I don't think he was dropped. Yeah, OJ Ballers, I answered your question. Thoughts on captaining Vardy versus Burnley next week ahead of Salah Lukaku? That could be a great differential. And if I remember correctly, he got a couple of assists last season against Burnley in a 5-2 victory. But look, I still prefer Salah and Ronaldo, for example. But you have Lukaku. I wouldn't be captaining him against City. So that might actually be on the cards. 3 of my main players didn't even play. Yeah, similar to me. Well, not really, actually. I didn't have it that bad. Yeah, Trent is probably one of yours. It's a bit of a shame. The Chelsea goalkeeper is the best, but he costs a lot. Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's really worth it, considering the fact you can just get 2 cheaper players with more attacking potential and bonus points potential at the back, and you can get Lukaku. Torres out. Considering the next few fixtures, yes, but Torres, you'd probably want to get him back at some point later on because he's just so good. Yeah, exactly, Alpha. Yeah, and also, I mean, I'm not saying everyone does this, by the way, but some people spam the chat, even though I've answered the question already, which I don't really get, but maybe they just don't hear it. Need a new striker. Who is there to need help? How much money do you have? Oscar West Does Football. What a name, by the way. Yeah, tell me how much money you have, and then I'll give you an answer there. Jota Toussaint. Yeah, I mean, for the next few game weeks, it makes sense. And if you're wildcarding in game week 8, I think it makes sense, to be honest. So that could be on the cards. The only keeper in defence for Liverpool is Van Dijk or Robertson, and that's about 1.5 million saving. But it's Trent. Spend the extra. I agree, to be honest. With Van Dijk, though, I think it's just Klopp is managing his team. He wants to prevent all of the injuries they were getting last season because he kept playing them. I think he's learned a bit from that, and he's trying to rotate when possible. So it makes sense. And with Trent, I just think he was ill. I've done Gray out and Sarr in because I'm planning on wildcarding in 7-8. Wish me luck. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, to be fair though, Gray can easily do really well in game week 6, but then he's got Manchester United, so that makes sense, and good luck to you, mate. I might actually get Sarr in myself, but it ultimately depends. Do I really trust him to do well against Newcastle? Maybe I do, to be honest. Is Sarr or Gray better fixtures than Fernandes? Yeah, they both have better fixtures than... Oh my god, what was that? Jesus, that voice crack was the worst I've ever had. Jesus. Yeah, they have better fixtures than Fernandes, but he's got a great record against Villa, so I'm not too sure about that. I just think that if you kept Fernandes in for this long, I'd arguably just keep him for an extra week and then maybe make 2 free transfers and get Lukaku in up front if you haven't got him already, and then maybe downgrade him to a Sarr or a Gray. But of course, you want Gray against Newcastle or Sarr against Newcastle and Gray against Norwich. Bachmann had a knee injury. Yeah, exactly, Laser. Best 4 million goalkeeper likely to start? I mean, definitely Foster at this moment in time, but Bachmann should be back. No pun intended. Who should I place? Greenwood, Gray with 0.3 million in the bank. Look, I wouldn't really be replacing any of them heading into game week 6. I think they can both easily do well, but there is the caveat of Greenwood potentially being benched in that game if he plays in the Champions League, for example. So looking long term, you could arguably get rid of Greenwood, but of course I do like Greenwood, as an FPL asset. Hello Dylan, do you think Benrahma will start game week 6 and 7 or be rotated? I think he will start, but of course with Vlasic coming in and all these West Ham players available, it is a possibility, and that's why I am considering moving him on directly to Rafinha or Sarr. It's something I could have done last week or heading into game week 5. So yeah, it is something to think about. Thanks Dylan for answering my question. You legend, no problem mate. Obviously I'm trying to do my best, but there is a lot of questions today. Thank you very much to everyone who has posed their questions. If I haven't answered it, you can put it onto the chat once again, but don't spam it. That's all I ask. Game week 7, which one becomes an enabler for Lukaku, Greenwood or Havertz? I would rather keep Greenwood and get rid of Havertz because you could always get 2 Chelsea defenders and Lukaku. 33 points with 6 to go tomorrow and Captain Lukaku differential. Yeah, Lukaku can do well against Spurs. I don't know if his ceiling will be that high, but you've got 6 players left. You can do really well. How mate, good win today. Thought the attack was off it, but 3 points is good ahead of the North London derby. Also on 51 points with 5 to go. Won a roll next week for ×2 Chelsea. Game week 7, but lots of possible injuries. I would want to do the same thing in terms of the transfer plans, but yeah, if I make a transfer or 2, especially if I make 2 free transfers, I'm going to be in a bit of a pickle going into game week 7 or 8 if I don't get a Chelsea defender because I really want to double up on their defence and get Lukaku in for Ronaldo potentially. And as for Arsenal, I just think they had some really good moments in the midfield, but once again, just struggling offensively, not really clicking, not really scoring too many goals, and not showing too much kind of cutting edge up front. The defense looked good though. They absorbed a lot of pressure, didn't really concede too many chances, but offensively only scored from a free kick really. So it's a bit of a lucky win. But of course, Arsenal's defense was solid, and that's what I like about it. Not really too confident long term though. Need money to upgrade defense. Who to downgrade? Tielemans, Benrahma, Greenwood or Jimenez? Probably Tielemans. I don't really rate him as an asset. The others as well, I mean, especially Jimenez and Benrahma, they're not really doing it so far, but I'd rather keep them than Tielemans. Of course, Tielemans is that type of player who can occasionally score and haul big, but not consistently enough. Tough week, yeah, exactly, mate. Overall rank 2007, nosebleed territory. Yeah, I mean, that's really good. Show your current squad, like your points. Okay, there you go, mate. It's on screen. Right now, it's 43 points, but when the bonus points are added in, I'll have 2 from Salah, so 4 because he's my captain. I'll have 1 from White, and I'll also have 3 bonus points from Tony, so I've got 51. Force on this defence, Livramento, Ayling, Trent, Shaw, White. It's a good defence. Ayling is the kind of weak link, I think, and you can always move Shaw to a Chelsea defender. Who is the best captain for Game Week 6? I think Bruno, Ronaldo, Salah, and Antonio. They're kind of my top 4 picks at the moment. I think Bruno can do really well against Villa as well. Smashing it once again, Dylan. You're like a man possessed, answering all our questions. Great job, man. Yeah, obviously, like I said, unfortunately, I haven't been able to answer all of them, but I am trying my best. Thank you very much, mate. Which 2 Chelsea defenders should we target? Definitely Rudiger for me because he's nailed, and either Alonso or Reece James. There's also Christensen, of course. He's not going to play every week, but the good thing about him is he's not going to be subbed on most weeks, really, when he's on the bench. So he's a really good choice at 5 million. He either plays or doesn't play, and then that gives you the opportunity to have someone from your bench to come in if needed. So maybe Rudiger and Christensen is the safest bet, but if you want a bit more attacking potential and you have a bit more money available, Alonso and Reece James look really good too. Third in your league, poor week so far for me. Yeah, but at least you're third in the league. That's a really good one, and that means you're in a very good position. Do you think Lloris is worth it for Game Week 7 because he's been getting a lot of points recently and Spurs are against Arsenal? Not for me, because I wouldn't be making a goalkeeper transfer if that's what you're suggesting, and Spurs have some tough fixtures coming up after that, and you can always just invest less money on a Sanchez, a Raya or a Jose Sa and invest that money elsewhere, so not for me. Rubbing my 2 brain cells to figure out who to replace Traore with. I think Sa or Gray really good. I would prefer Sa, but once again, I don't trust Watford offensively enough. The only reason I'd be tempted by Sa myself is because of that Newcastle fixture, but beyond that, I'm not too sure about him. Risk of Lukaku getting rotated with Werner on the easier fixtures? To be honest, you might have a point, and Lukaku is safe for the Champions League or maybe even the Carabao Cup or FA Cup when that comes around, but you might be right actually. That is something to think about. Sell Diaz or 2 weeks. Someone must likely clean sheet potential Game Week 6 or 7, then bring Diaz Game Week 8. Look, I would rather just keep your defenders, especially, Diaz is a really good choice in the long term, but of course I understand why you'd want to do that. He could still keep some clean sheets though in Game Week 6 and 7, that's the thing. So I'd probably avoid that and use the transfers elsewhere. Just subscribe, thank you very much, Khan, really appreciate it. And same with everyone else who has liked the video and supported the channel. Is Ronaldo to Lukaku, Shaw to Chelsea defender, and Marcel to Ben White worth it in Game Week 7? Not sure about Marcel to Ben White, but that could be on the cards, and Wolves fixtures aren't going to last forever. Ben White and Arsenal have probably more long-term fixtures. If you need to facilitate the other moves, then I'd maybe consider it. But then again, you're doing Ronaldo to Lukaku. That already gives you enough money. So you can just keep Marcel, if anything, and get Ben White for someone else. But they're all good transfers if you're asking me about that. And of course, as someone rightly suggested, maybe Lukaku might be occasionally rotated for some of the easier games when the Champions League comes along, when the really crunch games are there. But still, I think it's still worth getting Lukaku and a Chelsea defender in. Is Lukaku worth keeping, or do I get Ronaldo? I wouldn't be getting rid of Lukaku if you have him right now, because even if Ronaldo will outscore Lukaku in Game Week 6, you look at the fixtures afterwards, and assuming Lukaku plays all of those games, he's in for some big calls, in my opinion. Derry, yeah. Hi Dylan, what do you think about my team? Sanchez in goal, Elliott, Diaz, Cancelo, Trent, Duffy, Marcel, Salah, Greenwood, Rafinha, Gray, Sarr, Ronaldo, Bamford, using 3-5-2. It's a good team. You've got, I'm guessing, Steele or Street? Street, Duffy, Marcel, Elliott. Yeah, in terms of improving the team, you've got double City defence. You've got a Liverpool defender as well. I would look still to get a Chelsea defender in. Maybe in for Diaz or Cancelo. Of course, City defence is really good, but I would rather get a Chelsea defender rather than double City, especially with the rotation in mind. That's a really good team, to be honest, for now. But Gray and Sarr, long term, looking beyond Game Week 12, I think you could maybe improve on them at some point, but they're fine for now. Maybe heading into Game Week 7, you could maybe look to move Gray on to someone else. But that's a really good team, to be honest. And Ronaldo to Lukaku, of course, looks poised. And maybe one of your City defenders to a Chelsea defender. How many games was Reece James out on a red card for, though? I think only one. If you check now on FPL, so let's look at the transfers. And let me check. So Reece James, yeah, look, he's fine. He's available now. It's only one game. Same with Antonio. I think Antonio got a second yellow, didn't he? I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, I think it's just one game. He should be fine now. 45 points with Shaw, Greenwood, Lloris, Duffy. What do you think for Game Week 5? That's fine, to be honest. That's not too bad. You've got plenty of players left. They're not ideal, like Lloris, but Greenwood and Shaw, for example, could do really well. Is Antonio someone to transfer out? I'm thinking of transferring him out about Game Week 8 or 9. Yeah, going forward, especially when the Europa League continues to factor in, that could be a time to get rid of Antonio, but for the time being, I'd keep. Try to be open-minded about that. What is the news on Trent? He has an illness, not COVID. He should be fine for Game Week 6, if not Game Week 7. That's me saying that, by the way, about Game Week 6 and 7. That's just kind of my time frame about it. I could be wrong, but I think he should be calm. Is Trent worth selling? How comes he was rotated today? Did Klopp say anything? Well, Klopp did talk about rotating his squad because obviously there's so many matches, but the reason Trent didn't play was because of illness. He wasn't even in the squad, and of course he would always be at least on the bench because he can make a difference in any game. So that's the reason. It's not because he was dropped suddenly, so don't worry about that. Cancelo or Diaz? I think for the time being, assuming Cancelo starts, I would rather have him, but Diaz is just more nailed. Gutted Trent didn't play today, exactly, and for those who captain him, I'd say very unlucky, to be honest, that he didn't play. Can't see Lukaku getting rotated as there are no easy games, and against some of the weaker teams last season, Chelsea struggled. I agree, to be honest. There could be the occasional game, like 1 out of 7, where he is benched, but I'm mainly thinking about the Champions League. If they have a really tough game against Juventus, for example, in match day 2 or 5, that could be a possibility. It's just something to think about, in my opinion. Thank you for answering, Dylan. Bless you, mate. Thank you, Derry, for your questions and the team you put. Lukaku probably won't play in the FA Cup and League Cup. True, that might be Werner's territory, especially the League Cup. It's just something worth to think about. Do you know why Foster started? Because Bachmann wasn't fully fit. But he should be fine for Game Week 6, and I think Bachmann will continue to start. Who is the best Chelsea defender to replace Diaz? Once again, I'd say Rudiger if you want someone nailed, but Christensen's also really good. The thing I like about him is he's the cheapest, and he also either plays or doesn't play at all, so there's no kind of one-point cameos, at least for the time being. Alonso and Reece James are also really good. The reason why I'm not as keen on Reece James as other people are is because he is more likely, out of those 4, to come off from the bench for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and he'll get you those one-point cameos you don't want. Drop Torres or Jota or both. Because of the fixtures, I'd probably say drop Torres. But long-term, after those fixtures are done against Chelsea and Liverpool, I would probably like Torres, especially when Firmino's back. Milner said he didn't know he was playing right back until lunch, 3 hours before the game. They weren't planning on leaving Trent out. People who captain him should feel unlucky. Hopefully you vice Salah. Exactly, Nick. And I didn't know that comment actually by Milner. That's an interesting one. But yeah, Trent would definitely have played or at least been on the bench if he was obviously not ill. Thanks for answering, mate. Not just mine, but all these questions, helping a lot of people. Thank you, Fahad. Really appreciate it, mate. Any differentials you can think of, Dylan? Any punts you could consider? Okay, so let's look at the fixtures. This is for Game Week 6 specifically, by the way. I'm not going to be suggesting someone long-term is a differential, at least not yet. I would probably say for Game Week 6, I mean, Sarr is a good differential, especially if you captain him. That could be a really good one. Or Gray captain against Norwich, but maybe that's too risky in my opinion. I think Barnes against Burnley could be really good, but he's not someone I'd be bringing in just yet. I'd want to see a bit more consistency from him and Leicester first before kind of jumping the gun. Trossard against Palace, even Gallagher against Brighton, they're good choices, I think. Yeah, those are the sorts of names I'd be going for. Other than that, yeah, I probably wouldn't be kind of overcomplicating it there. Long term, a differential. I'm going to try look at ownership percentages. Don't want to be kind of too out of date with these. So let's sort these out by selected by. Okay, so let's go to, let's say a midfielder. That's probably like kind of what people are really on to. Sa is actually, yeah, I'd say 5.6% is a relative differential, not a huge one, but that's pretty decent to be honest. I mean, for example, Ivan Toney's around 14% ownership, and he gave me a big rank rise today. Gray, nah, yeah, he's not too much of a differential. He's 16.4, so I'd say Sa is a really good one. Gallagher against Brighton, but not someone I'd be bringing in just yet. Maybe after the fixture swing for a long period of time, around game week 9 or 10. Wow, Traore is only 4.5% owned. I thought he was owned by more people, to be honest. Yeah, those are the sorts of... I think Sa is definitely a standout, in my opinion, for this game week anyway, and maybe the week after against Leeds. In terms of forwards, let's have a look. Oh my god, I can't even select properly. Alright. Let's see. Aubameyang? No. Vardy could be a good one. I mean, I don't know if he's that much of a differential. Considering the fact he's so expensive, I think 11.3% could be a good differential. And if you captain Vardy, he could be someone to look out for. And then you can move him on to Lukaku or Ronaldo potentially at some point. So maybe up front you can go for him. Even Jimenez, you know, I think the goals will come. I'm just not that convinced. I don't think he's going to be as good as he used to be in the past. But definitely someone to look at. And in terms of defenders, this is where it gets interesting. Let's see if there's anyone. I'm not going to recommend goalkeeper differentials. It's a bit extreme. Interesting. All right. Christensen at 3%, you know, and also, once again, like I talked about, he's the cheapest Chelsea defender who tends to play a lot of games and either plays or just comes off the bench, or doesn't come off the bench for those one-pointers. So yeah, I think Christensen at the back could be a great differential. In midfield, Sarr, and in attack, I'd probably be inclined to say Vardy and captaining him potentially. Fornals is a shout in my opinion. Yep, fair enough. The thing is with West Ham though, I mean, I just think there's a lot of rotation potentially on the cards with the Europa League also coming in. But Fornals is a good shout, you know, I'm not going to deny that. Would you do Jimenez to say Maximan? I'd still probably keep Jimenez. I give him a bit of a chance. I transfer out Rafinha for Gallagher. Yeah, I mean, these things can happen, mate. I mean, yeah, the thing with Gallagher, he's good medium to long term, but just not yet, I think, with the fixtures. 200 watching now. Do give a like. Thank you once again, Chu, for the shout out. Milner celebrating with a pint of Ribena tonight. Yeah. And there's obviously that boring James Milner Twitter account that there was. I think they're still there. Hi, damn, how much I missed. I've been streaming since 7:30, I believe. But yeah, just a reaction stream because I'm not able to tomorrow after all the games are done. Thank you very much, obviously, to everyone who's tuned in. Appreciate you taking the time to answer the questions. We'll tell my mates to check your channel out. Last question from me outside FPL. Top 4 predictions this season. Thank you very much, Khan. Really appreciate it, and obviously very blessed. Top 4 predictions. It's definitely the same as before. Not sure about the order, but City, Liverpool, Chelsea, United is definitely the top 4, and I'm not too surprised. You know, there's something I've talked about, and everyone has since the beginning. If I had to put an order to it, I'm not sure. I mean, at this moment in time, I think Chelsea are kind of like my favourites to win the league. I just think they have the defence, they've got the striker now they need, they've got a good midfield, they've got decent squad depth. I have a bad feeling about it, but I think Chelsea will win the league. City or Liverpool second and third, I'm not sure about the order there. City have already dropped too many points, of course, but then again, they did last season and then turned it around from December onwards after that West Brom game when they kind of changed things about. So City can still win the league, you know, they're still up there. I don't see United winning the league. I could be wrong about that. I think they'll finish 3rd or 4th. I don't think they're going to win the league. So yeah, United 4th, I'd maybe 4th or 3rd. Liverpool, I mean, this is the thing. Liverpool could easily win the league. I just don't know if they have the squad depth, especially in the attack and midfield, compared to a City, for example, or Chelsea. But yeah, I have a bad feeling about Chelsea winning the league. So Chelsea 1st, maybe City 2nd, Liverpool 3rd, and United 4th. But Liverpool could easily win the league. Same with City. I just don't see United doing it. I might be wrong though. Sarr or Benrahma? For the next few game weeks, I'd say Sarr. Game week 6 wildcard team suggestions. I actually could make a video on that. It's not going to change too much from my video from before, which I made. So I made a game week 5 wildcard team. It'd be very similar. You could arguably maybe have Sarr in there as a short-term punt, maybe Gray. Probably I would lean towards Sarr. So yeah, check that video out and it'll be very similar to that, and not much will change. Ramsey could be a shout for a keeper. Yeah, exactly. And Arsenal have some very good fixtures for a long time. Best 4.5 million mid enabler. I don't like any of the options. I'd probably say Brownhill or Sissoko. Torres out for Sarr. Yeah, probably for the next few game weeks, and then you can always bring Torres back in, potentially. Zaha playing Brighton, good or bad? You know what? On paper, it's bad, but he has a really good record against Brighton. He always scores against them or does well. So maybe, if you have him, I'd keep him for now. Refresh the page, you'll see the bonus points. Fair enough. Thank you, mate, for that. Thank you very much. Yeah, it is 9 o'clock, isn't it? So, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, White got 7 points, Salah 24, Tony 12. It looks much better, doesn't it? You know, there you go. And the confirmation, 51 points as highlighted by livefpl.net. Should I still take out Jota to Carragher? I'm guessing you're saying Gallagher to fund Antonio. I mean, who would you be getting rid of for Antonio? Yeah, I mean, I still like Jota for game week 6, despite how good Brentford have been. But yeah, Jota's been awful. I wouldn't get Gallagher in if that's who you're on about for game week 6. I'd get him in for game week 9 or 10. Quick question, mate. Do you know if Rafinha's playing next week? I don't know if he is, but I think he will. And I said the same thing ahead of game week 5. If you checked yesterday's stream, I said that despite the kind of rumours, I'm just not that confident in the sources, and that's why I thought Rafinha would start. Do you think Benrahma will start tomorrow? He didn't start in the Europa League. He had a minor knock, as reported by David Moyes. But then again, some people have been checking Benrahma's recent Instagram post, which is, I think it was released today, and he said ready for Sunday. So obviously, we don't know if that was pre-planned by the PR team, but I think Benrahma will play tomorrow. But once again, I could be wrong about that. Gallagher or Sarr? For the next few weeks, Sarr, but then long term, I think Gallagher is a better pick. You know, I believe I never asked what team do you root for, says Rock and Roll. And thank you, by the way, for signing up as a channel member, mate. Really appreciate it, as I shouted out at the beginning of the stream. I support Arsenal in the league. They're my local team. And I support Argentina as my international team. Family roots and that. But yeah, Arsenal are my Premier League team. Any thoughts about Zaha? If you have him, I'd keep him ahead of Brighton. But long term, I probably would still get rid of him. And even Gallagher could be a better option. Take out Jota first or Greenwood. Got 3 each from United and Liverpool. Very tough. I mean, maybe Jota. Maybe I'd go for him instead. I'd get rid of him. But then again, actually, you look at the fixtures. So let's actually look at Liverpool's fixtures to provide a good answer here. Liverpool have good fixtures for a decent while. They've got a few tough ones sprinkled in between, like City, like United and West Ham. Then you look at United, for example. From game week 7 onwards, there's a lot of tough ones there. And I would expect Greenwood to be rotated more. So he didn't play in the Champions League, so I expect him to start tomorrow. But I wouldn't be surprised if in match day 2 of UCL Fantasy, he plays and then he's benched against, let's say, for example, Villa or maybe Everton in the future. So, you know what? I'd probably say Greenwood, get rid of him because of the fixtures. But as an asset, you know, excluding fixtures, I prefer Greenwood. I don't know. I just think he's been more reliable. He's more consistent. He's a better finisher. Should we stick with Jota? Obviously, it's very difficult to defend him, but I'd probably stick with him for a while longer. Of course, with fixtures like City and United coming up, it's a bit difficult to do. Getting Ronaldo and Lukaku, not necessarily. You lose lots of value. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to have both. You can always kind of get rid of one and get the other, but you do lose value, like you said. Should I get Reguilon out, and for who should I replace? I'd probably move to a Chelsea defender if possible. So Christensen, Rudiger, Reece James or Alonso, take your pick, depending on your budget. I think all of them are good. Will I sell Jota? Obviously up to you, mate, but I'd probably keep him for a while longer. Obviously, it's a team-dependent question. And because Greenwood has really tough fixtures coming up and also rotation coming into the mix, I might get rid of him first, actually. But I do prefer him as an asset, which is a bit of a kind of, I'd say, catch-22. Benrahma spotted in training. Yeah, I think he will start, but once again, you know, he could be on the bench. West Ham have a few assets. I'm so scared of Ronaldo tomorrow. All the rank I get today can be lost in seconds. Oh yeah, you don't have Ronaldo. Obviously, I'm not too worried about it, but of course, if he does really well, then yeah, I'm probably going to be having a little rank drop. But I don't think his effective ownership should be too bad. But of course, if you don't have him, yeah, it is a bit scary. Tsimikas to start game week 6? Not for me, Mr. Ali. I think it'll be Robertson. Which of these players would you remove for a second Chelsea defender? Trent, Semedo, Livramento, Williams, James. If you can, I'd get rid of Williams. I just think you've already got Livramento as a budget option. I'd get rid of Williams and upgrade him to a Chelsea defender. I'm at 175k. That's a good rank, mate. And once again, not much difference in the rank so far. Love from your friendly neighbourhood, North London. I have Ronaldo, Lukaku, Shaw, and Pogba to go for tomorrow. So do you think I could get about 20 points? Definitely, mate. Ronaldo alone could get 20 points. Maybe that's a bit too far because he's facing West Ham. But yeah, I'd say between 15 and 25 points. That's achievable tomorrow. Greenwood started all the games for the triple game week last season, but United have more players. I expect him to be benched against Everton. Yeah, I completely echo what you say, Nick, and that's a very good point. Greenwood is really highly rated by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and with good reason. The only reason I'm just kind of a bit doubtful about him long term is just looking at those fixtures from game week 7 onwards. But of course, with the Champions League coming into the mix, if he plays in the Champions League, for example, I don't just see him starting right away in the league as well. He's not going to play every single game. Having watched Chelsea for many years, this squad is right up there along with the best. I agree, to be honest, unfortunately. There might be a time where, these tactics and stuff, get found out, maybe in a year's or so time, but for the time being, I think it'll be enough for them to win the league. Do you think Torres is likely to be benched more often now? This is something I've been talking about for several weeks. It's not just a case of, from this point onwards, he's going to be a rotation risk. I just think with the Champions League coming into the mix, that already kind of makes things more difficult. And also Foden, De Bruyne, and all these players coming back. Sterling's also there in the mix. Mahrez, and just so many players. Grealish. It's difficult for Torres to always start. So I just think, he's always going to be a rotation risk. The only kind of City players who are going to play 80 or 90% of the games, in my opinion, are Ederson, Diaz, Cancelo for the time being, Gundogan and Grealish. But the rest, well, maybe De Bruyne as well, the rest are going to be in and out of the team, really. Keep or sell Benrahma? If possible, maybe keep him for the next two, but of course, it's a bit of a difficult one to say because there are other options like Sarr who are just outperforming him with better fixtures, and Benrahma could be subject to rotation or fewer minutes even. Against Southampton, he only played 60. Replacement for Gundogan, any suggestions for next week? Also have Townsend, Jota, Rafinha. Great question. Maybe Sarr. If you're looking for someone for the next few, especially with Newcastle in mind, I'd probably look to him. But long-term, Sarr is not someone I'd want, and I'll stick to that. What do you think about Man City's players? I have none because of Pep's rotation. Exactly the same. I'd be tempted by their defence, but not at the expense of Chelsea. So Chelsea are my priority in the defence, but City defence is really good. As for the attackers, Torres is still a great option. I'd be looking at him from game week 8 onwards, but not someone I'd be too keen on because of rotation, at least at the moment. Tony really impressed me today. Exactly. I was completely shocked, to be honest, seeing him. When I saw Wolves were losing 2-0, I knew immediately Tony would be involved, but it was still shocking to see that happen. Top 3 forwards to get in for Game Week 8 wildcard. Really appreciate your hard work, sir. Thank you very much, mate, and a great question. Lukaku for sure, considering the fixtures. I'd still say Bamford, because if we look at, for example, let's look at my Game Week 16. Let's look at Antonio's fixtures. So from Game Week 8 onwards, Everton away, Tottenham at home, Villa away, Liverpool at home, Wolves away, City away. That's poor fixtures in my opinion. So I probably would go off Antonio for the time being, especially when Europa League, around that time period is going to be rampant. And he said very as well. Yeah, I'd say Bamford would be kind of one of my picks, even Jimenez. So Lukaku, either Bamford or Jimenez. You could actually go for both even. I think those are kind of my top 3 picks from Game Week 8 onwards on a wildcard at this moment in time from a purely kind of fixtures point of view. But of course, there's always different ways you can go about it, and there's no set formula. Sometimes someone like Vardy could come into the mix. Even Harry Kane can finally start scoring again. But for the time being, I think those 3 are probably my favourites. Of course, Jimenez hasn't really shown enough yet. City offensively not looking sharp as before. I think they're just very inconsistent. They can score a bucket load of goals in a game, and then the next they struggle to score. So yeah, they're a bit iffy anyway, and there's just too much rotation. So apart from Torres, at the moment anyway, I'm steering clear from their attack and their midfield. And as for the defence, I'm looking at Cancelo and Diaz, but Chelsea is my priority right now. Sarr or Trossard? Trossard's a good pick, and I said he'd score against Brentford. I don't know why, by the way, I got this premonition, but I got that ahead of Game Week 4. I still prefer Sarr, though, over the next few game weeks. -8 for Sarr. Once again, Halthav, not for me. I wouldn't take a -8 for Sarr. Of course, he can pay that off over the next 2 game weeks, but you probably would want to get rid of him afterwards. 40 points with Sanchez, Rudiger, Ronaldo. 11k at the moment. Am I going to drop? Potentially, but that's still not a bad week, and you can still do really well. You can be in a really good position heading into Game Week 6. So don't worry if you go down from where you are now. But yeah, that's not too bad. Rudiger or James? Pick one. Rudiger, because with Reece James, I think he could come off the bench from time to time. Of course, it depends what type of manager you are. Reece James is probably going to get you more explosive returns from time to time, but Rudiger's just going to consistently tick you over 6 to 8 points, maybe even 9 sometimes, every single week, with the occasional rotation. Reece James can maybe every 3 or 4 game weeks be benched and then come on for 20 minutes. Of course, I could be wrong about that. That's just what I think based on what we've seen so far. Think City will regret not buying a top quality striker. Yeah, and that's something I thought from the beginning, to be honest. And yeah, maybe long term, if they wait and obviously they're able to get Haaland because of this, then maybe it makes sense. But in the short term, looking at this season, they might bottle the league and just hand it over to Liverpool, Chelsea or United. There's a lot of competition this season. What do you think about Bailey? Look, very impressive today, but apparently came off with a little injury concern. And either way, he's a bit of an awkward one. You don't know when to bench him, you don't know when to play him. And Villa, just wait for the fixtures to turn for them, in my opinion. And there are better options at the moment, like Sarr, like Gray, Greenwood, Jota even. And yeah, I think we can wait at the moment. Chalobah at 4.5, yeah, but I just don't know if he's going to start enough. He might play every 4 or 5 games, but I don't expect him to be part of the main Chelsea backline. No problem, Halfath. For Game Week 7, who would you replace for a Chelsea defender? Trent, Shaw or Marcel? Probably Shaw. Although, look, I'll admit, I think United could actually keep more clean sheets from Game Week 7 onwards throughout that difficult fixture run than they have so far this season, because they tend to be more conservative in these tougher games. What's the move of Jota and Ferran Torres? I'd probably get rid of Torres because he's got Chelsea and Liverpool coming up, but then you can get him in afterwards. Bro, will I get points for Livramento and Allen on my bench when Trent and Torres did not play? Yes, you will, mate. Both of them will be coming on. So yeah, don't worry about that. Keep Tony and Benrahma. Benrahma is a bit of a rotation risk, and of course he's got that little injury concern at the moment. I think he should be fine. Look, as much as Tony was really good, I just look at the next 4 fixtures and I'd probably be more inclined to sell him. But of course, you could sell both of them. Just it depends on when you do it. So you can get rid of Tony now, and in, let's say, Game Week 8, after West Ham's good fixtures come to an end, that's when you can get rid of Benrahma too. All for a week, can I send my team via Twitter? Yes, you can, mate. And if you want, and if enough people do it, you can send in a clean cropped image of your team, and it can feature in my next Rate My Team video for Game Week 6, if that's what you prefer. Does Rafinha have a serious injury? I don't think so, mate, but of course, it could be serious. I could be wrong about that. And apparently it is separate. It's a hip injury, not the thigh injury that was reported before the Game Week 5 deadline. Who to captain for next week? One of the United players, either Bruno or Ronaldo, if you have them. Antonio or Salah. One of those 4, I think, will be a really good option. All of them are actually good options. It's just a matter of who's going to be the highest one. At the moment, I'm leaning towards Ronaldo, but after Villa's performance today, I'm having second thoughts. And of course, Villa can frustrate United. They've done it in the last few years too, despite United getting the wins. All right, thanks. No problem, Rasmus. Do you think Rafinha will play next week, says Kobe? I think so, but I'm not entirely sure if he will. If you're asking me, I think he will start, but I couldn't tell you with complete confidence. And once again, over 200 people watching, thank you very much. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. The last plug for the stream, maybe. And thank you very much. I'll be ending the stream very soon, and I'm going to be having dinner, and then I'm going to be enjoying the rest of the night. Of course, thank you very much to everyone who has tuned in so far. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and if you want, you can send a clean cropped image of your team, and it could feature in the next Rate My Team video ahead of Game Week 6. They tend to be pretty popular amongst you. You like the feedback, so that could be something that I'll try to do weekly, of course, and I'll try find a schedule. And of course, let me know what you think about the previews, the team selections, what you think, ways to improve. Let me know what you think. Same with the live streams as well, and UCL fantasy content. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll be going through some last questions, and then maybe we'll be wrapping up. What is your Twitter, and do you prefer a direct tweet or direct message? I mean, it's up to you. I'd say direct message, I guess. I mean, it's up to you. And yeah, it's on screen, or it was on screen. Dylan_RCM. It's the same as my YouTube. And if not, you can go on my channel page, and there are links all there to my socials. CMA, thank you, Laser, for joining in. Thank you very much. What's your thoughts on Son? Look, he's obviously a good option when he's fit. I don't think he's going to be ready for Game Week 5. He could be back by Game Week 6 or 7, but I'd get rid of him probably because Spurs so far haven't shown too much attacking potential and potency for me to invest 10 million or more in an asset like him or Kane. Brentford's defence looked very solid and well organised today. Great team shape. Yeah, and also across the whole season, obviously it might have changed after Game Week 5, but they've actually conceded the lowest big chances of any team. I think only City might have conceded fewer big chances. It's impressive, and they've had some tough fixtures. Can I send my team on IG? Yep, you can. And once again, it's Dylan_RCM. The socials were on screen, and you can also go on my channel. And also in the description below, there are links there. Thanks for answering my questions. Thank you, Laser, for joining in once again. Really appreciate you joining in all the streams and videos. Top man, good luck. Thank you, Mr. Ali. Good luck to you as well. Where to send the teams? You can send them to my Twitter and Instagram. The links are in the description below. You can also go to my channel page, and there are links there. You just click on it, and you will be taken to my Instagram or Twitter. Thanks, bro. Thank you, Lenny. What do you think about Tony? I was thinking of getting rid of him, and if I had 2 free transfers, I would have definitely got rid of him ahead of Game Week 5, and I would have missed out on his haul. Look, he was really impressive today, but then again, I don't expect this to be the norm. You look at the fixtures coming up for Brentford, and even though they can still offer some value, even Mbeumo, Tony, and their defenders and goalkeeper, I just think it might be a good time to get off him, take the points and run, potentially. But of course, it's very difficult to do that when he's just gotten 12 points. Have a great one. Thank you, Asaraf. Really appreciate it. And Mbeumo played well today, exactly. And beginning of the season, I highlighted him and... who else? I highlighted him and someone else as the best 5.5 million option. Then, of course, we've had Gallagher, we've had Gray coming up. But Mbeumo was really disappointing ever since. And this is finally, his big return. Still, Gray at the moment is probably offering better value. In terms of underlying stats, Gallagher is the best, but I'd wait for the fixtures to turn. But yeah, Mbeumo has definitely paid off the patience for those who have kept him. Benrahma out for Sarr, that makes sense. I could do that myself, to be honest. I am considering it, but then again, Ivan Toney, who would I rather keep for the next few game weeks, considering the fixtures? Ivan Toney or Benrahma? Probably Benrahma, to be honest, but of course... Benrahma, I'm not too sure about him at the moment. Great stream, mate. Good luck for tomorrow's games. Thank you, Kobe. Unfortunately, I might not be able to watch them, but I'll definitely try catch up on the highlights. And if there is a game I can watch, I definitely will do my best. Marçal or Livramento? Look, Livramento is just kind of a really good budget option. He's a good choice to have as your 5th defender. If this is someone you want to start most weeks, I would still rather have Marçal. Just subbed and followed the Twitter. Cheers, lad. Thank you, Jack Savage. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else who's been watching. Still 160 people. And remember, you can smash the like button and support the channel even further. I'd really appreciate it. And of course, if there's any last questions, let me know before I wrap up. At the moment, I'm thinking of captaining Ronaldo, but it could easily be Salah or Antonio. And in terms of transfers, I'm thinking of Rafinha coming in. And this is something I was thinking about even before Game Week 5. Looking medium to long term with the fixtures. Maybe Sarr could come in too. And downgrading Tony to a 4.5 million striker. And upgrading Brownhill to one of those that I just said. If not, just Benrahma to one of those. And if not, maybe one of my defenders to a City or Chelsea defender. But maybe one thing I'm thinking about, actually, is doing Benrahma to Rafinha or Sarr. And then... having 2 free transfers ahead of Game Week 7, then doing Ronaldo to Lukaku, and then bringing in a Chelsea defender. But once again, though, Ayling and Tony, probably still the weak points of my team along with Benrahma. I mean, Ayling could actually become a Chelsea defender, and that would be very interesting, of course. It's just a matter of timing, when I do these moves, but ultimately, I want 2 Chelsea defenders. I want Lukaku and a Rafinha or a Sarr, and long-term, Rafinha is better than Sarr, in my opinion. Holy smokes, 53 points. Bruno Sanchez and Benny to play with 12 points from Tony to come. Yeah, that's really good, mate. And wait, do you have 53 points without Tony's points? Because if so, then 65 is exceptional. Rafinha playing in Game Week 6? I think so, Messi and Ronaldo. I think he will, but of course, there is a chance of him not playing. But I think he will, and I had the same thoughts heading into Game Week 5. We like every stream video you make automatically. Thank you very much, Asaraf. Really appreciate it. And of course, more streams to come for UCL Fantasy and FPL. Probably the next stream, though, will be next week on Friday. Of course, I'll let you guys know and I'll ask for your feedback and opinions. Thank you very much to everyone who has joined in. And thank you for all the good questions and all the good comments and ideas. Really appreciate it. And same with the feedback. And in terms of transfers, I'm definitely going to be giving this a very big think over. And I may even ask you lot for your opinions and see what you lot think. And we can generate more ideas across the YouTube community tab and on Twitter. So thank you very much. Christensen a keep. I would keep him if you still have him. And I'd look to add Chelsea defenders. So maybe get a Rudiger or a Reece James or an Alonso for a Shaw, for example, and then have double Chelsea defence. Thinking of taking out Traore for Sarr? I probably would. And this is something I've talked about from game week 3 or 4. I still prefer Sarr over Traore, but don't expect Sarr to just constantly deliver double-digit hauls. It's not going to happen. Yeah, that's what I'd probably do. Thank you very much to everyone who has tuned in. Really appreciate it. Remember to smash the like button, subscribe if you're new, and all of that good stuff. My Twitter and Instagram is on screen if you are interested, and you can follow me there. You can talk to me there about football, FPL, and UCL fantasy. Really appreciate all the support. Thank you for this stream. It's been going on for nearly 2 hours now, and there will be more deadline streams, reaction streams to come. Same with the team selections, chip strategy guides, and all of that good stuff. And maybe rating your teams. Obviously, let me know what you want for this channel. And Champions League Fantasy is coming back the week after this one. So all the very best of luck. Enjoy the football, and I'll see you next time.